All right. G'day, guys. It is Ben here from Hunt the Night. Now, I hope this is kind of working. If someone could let me know if they can hear me, that would be fantastic, because I can hear me, but I need everyone else to be able to hear me too. Yes. Neil, can you hear me? I know, Neil. You can tell me if you can hear me, Neil. Excellent. I know there's a little bit of a delay between when I see the comments and when they're coming through. All right. Welcome, guys, to my first ever real live stream. Now, I've done a few of the little, we do webinars over the winter series, we'll call them, where we have a little, 6 people at a time on a webinar. We talk about thermal, but this is something totally different, because tonight we are talking about product, and specifically we're talking about new products that InfiRay have asked us to introduce to the Australian market. Now, nights like this don't happen by themselves. There's a whole lot that goes into it. There's a few people I need to thank up front. Firstly, InfiRay, thank you for trusting us with your brand to be able to do this. And secondly, the 2 principal distributors of InfiRay products in Australia, Ground Force Australia and Spiker. Both of them have given us donations for tonight that we're going to give away, and both of them have been instrumental in the success of InfiRay in Australia. Mind you, I like to think we've got something to do with that as well. But anyway, it's is what it is. So we're going to try and have a little bit of fun as we go. Ask questions. Tonight, we're going to limit it kind of to the products that we're talking about, and I'm not going to compare products to other products and brands and all that type of stuff. I did thinking about doing a little bit of a skit with Harry calling me at the start, asking me to promote some of his products, but I decided not to do that, just for a little bit of fun. So anyway, ask the questions away as we get into it. So we're going to rip into it pretty quick. If I call out your name, that means you've won something. We've got a bit of stuff to give away tonight, and we're going to go over what we'll give away first. All right. First of all, we got hats. We've got them sitting there. We've got a thermos flask that I got out and put somewhere. Here it is. Keep you warm in those nice cold nights while we're out doing what we do. There you go. You should place one InfiRay product with another. We've got some fox whistles, some Hunt the Night fox whistles, which are actually made by Down Under Predator calls, and they're absolutely fantastic. We've been getting a heap of good feedback on them. I'm probably going to need to get some more of them because we're almost out. And then we've got the big stuff. Okay, so there's 2 things that we're going to be giving away that I don't have with me tonight because we're out of stock, but they will be back in stock next week. But first of all, we're going to be giving away a C2W thermal monocular, which is pretty cool. Now, it's a little introductory device, but I'll tell you what, for rabbiting, static animals like pigs and deer kind of under that 100 meters or so, it's a great little monocular. We're going to be giving away a InfiRay Tube TD50L night vision scope, which we don't actually have here. And then we're also going to be giving away one of the suckers. Now, I should say the C2W came from Ground Force. The night vision scope has come from Spiker. The InfiRay Finder has come from InfiRay themselves. So really, thank you very much for allowing us to have one of them and giving us one of them. And then the big sucker we're going to give away at the end, which I don't have. I mean, I've got that not in the box. We're going to be giving away a CH50 tube, which is the brand new tube from InfiRay, which it's an excellent little device, but we'll get to that later. And Hunt the Night has thrown in that. So thanks to Hunt the Night, they're a pretty good bunch of people. All right, let's get into it. So basically what we're going to do tonight, we're going to go through some products. I'm going to show you a little bit of footage while I'm talking about it. And any questions, and we'll get into it. We'll talk about some of the pros and cons of products and so on as well. And there's going to be a little bit of me moving around. The advantage of when I do videos for my YouTube is I get to do takes. Can't do that tonight. So Anyway, let's get into it. So this is the InfiRay Ricoh RH35 thermal rifle scope. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the Ricoh devices, this looks like an RL42 and it looks like an RH50. So there's not a lot of new in terms of how this looks. It comes with the same mount with a quick detach mount where you press the button and it opens up and you close it. It has the optional rangefinder as well. But what it is, it's a 35mm focal length and a 640 by 512 12 micron sensor. So let me grab some of this, because you might ask, well, what is that good for? And it's a good question actually to ask, because one thing we have is all these different focal lengths in scopes, and they all do different things. You'll see here at the moment I'm running this on some horses, and these horses are at about 60 meters away. Now this scope has got a base magnification of 2, and it goes from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 in terms of magnification. So it's really good for getting up close to those big staticky type animals, or it's really good. Hang on. Cam's telling me my feed is not working on Facebook. Hang on. I'm going to have to start again. Bear with me. Technology. It does say on live. Let me find out. Hang on. I might have to call a friend. Sorry, guys. Give me one moment. Looks like we're only working on... All right, give me a sec. I'm going to have to try and do this a little bit differently at the same time. Technology. Oh, I was on such a roll. Oh, I had all this up and I had it all tested. Well, there's lots of comments on Facebook, which is great, but it's not. People are saying it's live. Hang on. No, Facebook Live is coming through. Oh, fine. All right. I'm just not seeing the comments from Facebook for some reason. I'm only seem to be thinking YouTube comments. Okay. My daughter's just come down to me and told me it's working good. Hang on. Oh, I got all sorts of stuff going on. All right, I'm fine and it's working fine. So Cam, that's your fault. We're going to just remove you from the ability to win anything tonight, mate. All right. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so let's get back to talking about focal length. So 35 mil. So when you're talking those really small and low magnifications, you're talking about close, okay, especially when you're talking about big sensors like 640 sensors. You got these beautiful wide field of views, but then you're talking about close, okay, and you're talking about more static animals at that type of thing too. Deer, pigs, rabbits. Now, if we have a look at some of this footage here, the detail on these, out of these devices is quite good. And the color palettes and everything else works quite well if you select your environment correctly. So if we have a look at, for instance, with the little RH35, there's a horse in here. I'm going to put my mouse over it. There's a horse in here and there's some sheep up there. And that's about 600 odd meters away from where I'm taking this footage from. And in 2 magnification, it's I mean, who's going to take a shot at 600 meters anyway? It's just what it is. But what changes though in these types of devices, and especially when you get into some of these focal lengths, is what your atmosphere does. Taking this footage up a hill into a huge amount of atmosphere up here, it really does start to affect your color palettes. And I find that in the Ricoh devices where you can't change or you don't have control over your brightness and contrast, you'll see, for instance, black hot becomes almost quite, almost quite unusable in this environment. So, color palettes in these little 35 mil cool focal lengths and so on really start to play a real big part in what you do. And we're going to see that in a few other devices as well we look at, because a lot of these devices that we're going to be playing with from InfiRay is you can't actually change the brightness and contrast. Now, that's a positive and a negative. It's a positive because it makes it easy to use. It's a negative for more advanced users, but it's great for, people who are just getting into thermal as well. The Ricoh's a little like that, and some of the other, and the CH50 and so on as well. So I can't see Facebook comments at the moment. Hang on, let me just change what I'm doing for a second, guys. I am still here, but I need to be able to read what's going on as well. So I'm going to, oh, good. All right, I've got a backup plan. Karen is. All right, so Travis has asked if this unit captures sound. No. The only way that this InfiRay unit, and this is the same for all Ricoh units, is that it only captures sound if you record via the InfiRay app. Okay. Well, here's a good little question. And look, I've got this little technology. Can I show you? Oh, look at that. DNH Building says, hey, Ben, can you see deer antlers at night or only when they're in velvet? Not looking at stags, but would love to use thermal to see what's about at night. The shorter answer is yes. You can see them both in and out of velvet, but it'll come down to distance. So when they're out of velvet, you'll see antler. I mean, and it depends which device you're using as well, but high-end devices we have, we'll certainly see antler at night. It's and when you say I'm seeing it probably at the 100 odd meters. When they're out of when they're in velvet, you'll see antler, probably 150, 200 meters away, with a good device. Jack has asked, image quality better than the RH50 with more adjustments. Look, the RH35 is using the same matrix algorithm, and it's also using the same sensor as running as the RH50. So it's pretty much the same from that point of view, image quality and so on as well. Rodney Morris is texting me saying, what's happened to the live feed? I'm just telling him no, that it's working on both Facebook and YouTube. So we'll see if we can get back into it. Autofocus, no, they don't have autofocus. It's manual focus. Laurie's asked me if this unit would be all right for fox shooting at 200 meters. I don't like these type of focal lengths running at that kind of distance. When you're fox shooting or dog shooting or whatever, and Bob, I've just thrown your question up for a second, so I get back to that one. When you're fox shooting, you're actually asking your scope to do a lot of work. You're asking your scope to see a small heat signature at long distance. So for me, I look for that 3.5, 4 type base magnification scopes. So, in the InfiRay range, it's the RL42, which has been a very successful fox shooting scope for us. The new CH50, is in there as well. So for me, it's I look for more things, with higher magnification than lower magnification. And in those 35 mil focal lengths, you don't tend to get high magnification devices. So they're much more closer type, as well. Great for rimfire, 17 HMRs or 3006s for shooting pigs at, 50 meters as well. So, Bob, I'm going to talk to your question. What MK sensor is it running? So it's got a net D of 40, but I'm going to say this, and I might cop a little bit of flack, but I'm always open to copying a little bit of flack. Don't be concerned about the MKV, the millikelvin, of the actual unit. Now, in certain situations, yes, it does make a difference, but we're talking about the difference between 40 millikelvin or 35 millikelvin or 30 millikelvin is a 15th of a degree. Okay, it's a very tiny amount of heat. Your software algorithms and the quality of the lens and the lens coatings in these devices is going to have a much bigger influence over the performance of the device than the millikelvin rating of an actual sensor. Okay, and there's easy ways to kind of fudge that in terms of that sensor. And I wasn't necessarily going to go down to all of this conversation, but anyway, I'm going to talk about something a little quickly. Like the more and more F1 lenses we see, the lower and lower the millikelvins are going to become, because at the end of the day, more light getting into the lens, through the lens and out of the sensor is going to create a lower millikelvin sensor. But it doesn't always mean it's good. So I threw it up there, Bob, because I wanted to actually bring that one up and go from there. Now, I'm just going to go back through a couple of these other questions quickly. David has asked, does this have direct Wi-Fi so I can use a phone or tablet with the live feed? Yes, it does. It's got, you can either use it to a screen or you can use it to a Wi-Fi. Now, hang on. My wife's trying to send me photos, which I can't see. Rodney sent me a photo. Looks like Facebook for some people is crashing. I'm just going to quickly put up a post just to our link on YouTube. Sorry, guys. Just bear with me for a moment. For those who are having an issue with it, I just want to grab the YouTube link and just put that on our Facebook page. Give me one moment. Well, Wayne's telling me things are all working fine, but I'm just going to... We'll get back into this. Give me one sec, guys. Like I've now forgotten how to create a post. Create a post on Facebook. All right. Post up.
Still going.
Yeah, still going. People are just waiting for me, which is really lovely of them. And okay. All right. So yes, in essence, David, yes, it does. So that's an easy one to knock off. Now, and the Wi-Fi on the InfiRay devices has been really solid. Wi-Fi on most devices out there these days is quite solid, and the InfiRay has been nothing but that. Now, thanks, Walkabout Products. He's telling me I'm doing well with technical fixes on the fly. So, Walkabout Products, if you can please shoot me an email to contact@huntthenight.com.au, you are going to get a free hat, because I appreciate it. Now, other people might have said good things too, but who knows? Yes, as Tom has just mentioned here, software has more to do it with specs. And the other night out in incredible fog, couldn't see 3 feet past my face almost. I had some customers up here. We looked at a couple of different thermal devices, and some of them had, bad specs, like my GSC. I wasn't going to enter other brands tonight, but, it's got a 40 millikelvin sensor, but it cut through fog like nothing else. And other ones, do as well. So pay more attention to, what it looks like overall, not necessarily the specifications And people are really good at pushing specifications, but it doesn't mean that specifications are the right answer to the question, if that makes sense. So 35mm focal lengths. Yep, short range on small animals and medium range on bigger animals. And this is a decent little unit. It's not, it's not the worst in the tool in its price band. And the thing that I like about it is having the expandable rangefinder functionality is pretty cool. Like, a lot of people start with these Ricoh devices and then they end up moving through and so I end up having for a while and then end up throwing on rangefinders as well. Sorry, I'm a little bit over the place somewhere. I'm trying to read questions at the same time. So Kathleen has asked, so you have image of smaller game at distance. I don't have a lot of images off this device because I only had it for a short period of time. But if smaller game at distance is like foxes and so on, you're going to know it's a fox by the way it moves at distance. And when I say distance, I reckon over 200 meters with this type of thing. Not so much, by moves, not by what it looks like. So Dean's asked the battery type, internal, replaceable, internal, plug and play, external power, and so on. Yes. Okay, so the battery devices in all Ricohs are a custom battery, and they're removable. And they look like a little brick, and they just slot in the side here. You'll get 6 to 8 hours out of that battery, and each Ricoh device, whether it's the RL42 or whether it's the RH50 or the RH35, each Ricoh device comes with 2 batteries, which is pretty cool. The battery effect in the cold, yes, you'll drop. You'll definitely drop battery performance in the cold, and that's with any battery. Whether it's a CR123 battery, whether it's one of these batteries or any type of battery performance in the cold is always going to have the issue. Husey, this scope at the moment is the InfiRay Ricoh RH35, and this is the scope that rounds out the Ricoh product line. So you've got the RH35 in the 640 by 512, which is great for short distance type of shooting. You've got the RL42 in a 384 by 288 sensor, which has got 4 base magnification, which will get you out, on smaller game a lot further than this device. And then you've got the RH50, which is the 645-12 version with 3 base magnification, which I kind of see as a bit of an all-round type device, not a specialty type device like the RL42 is. My daughter is going to be a brilliant doctor because I can't read most of that writing, but I'm definitely going to try. Brett's asked, how do they handle recoil? They handle it through the mount. No, not being a smart ass. Look, you could run these up onto a 300 Win Mag. We've certainly run them on the 300 Win Mag. But a little bit about recoil as well. Recoil also comes down to the weight of the rifle itself. Like my Tikka 3006, for instance, in a super light, has got a heap of recoil to it. I fitted one of these, an RH50 version, to a 338 Lapua, which weighed 12 kilos, and you could basically shoot it, and the thing doesn't go into your shoulder at all. So recoil is really subjective to the unit itself, not necessarily the caliber, and go from there. So Paul has asked, is a link between the device and the iPad, streaming, like in terms of Wi-Fi? Is it chunky, delays? No, it's very smooth. And I'll show you that when we pull out the CH50 shortly, the new Clip-On device, which we'll have a look at, and we'll actually hook that up, and I'll show you because it's it's new in terms of having Wi-Fi to it. Does InfiRay have history of issuing software updates, which Eric does? Yes, they do, and it depends on what you mean by software updates. There have certainly been some improvements in the functionality of the Ricoh devices, but software updates don't generally improve much in the way of image. they do, you know, it's more cosmetic things inside the menu and changing the way that menus are running that typically, you know, is a little more that it does. You know, would this be okay on a 308? Yes, it would. Is the laser rangefinder, hang on. Yes. Okay. So is it a single ranging or can it be set to constant? Yes, it is both. Yes, they can either be a single or constant. And the rangefinder, I believe, is an 800-meter rangefinder. Could be 1,000 meters, but I would probably err on the side of caution on that. And Colin, you know, in terms of software updates, yes, more so bugs, fixes to resolve glitches and so on. And we've had that. We had a batch of RH50s that came through where they tried to refine how well the RH50 measured battery life and to make it more accurately, and it introduced a little bit of a bug. Whereas the batteries wore on slightly, it would have a voltage drop. So they released a fix for that, and we repatched all those devices. You know, so I've been really good at actually, and most manufacturers are pretty good these days at releasing software fixes because the technology's come a long way. You know, this isn't new anymore. The Wi-Fi is not new. The updating's not new. All this stuff is generational in terms of it's been around for quite some time now, and we're seeing refinement more so than anything else. So if any more specific questions about the RH50, then if there's not, Jordan's looking at me. Oh, is it got a one-shot zero? Yes, it has a, now I hate the terminology one-shot zero because one-shot zero to me, you never shoot one shot and then zero it. You shoot a group of three, then you zero it. And then you shoot a group of the three again, and then you refine it. But does this have the ability to have digital overlays that point to the point of impact and then have your reticle move to where you point? Sorry, it has a digital point of aim and a digital point of impact, which is what we call a one-shot zero, and they do. Does the rangefinder adjust the zero? No, it's not a smart rangefinder in terms of it's a dumb rangefinder, which 90% of rangefinders on the market are. There's a couple by other manufacturers that do that will do ballistic calculations, but these are not ballistic calculation ones. Oh, Simon's asked me, you know, I wasn't going to get into these types of questions, but let's have a quick chat about it. For those in youth thermal, would you recommend purchasing a scope or a handheld in the first instance? Okay. Always buy a monocular first, because then you're going to come back and buy a scope pretty quickly. There you go. There's my answer. That means I make two sales, not one. Okay. Realistically, and to be true to it, my theory and advice is always buy a handheld first, because a handheld does 90% of your work. You use your scope infrequently because the handheld's going to get you in position. It's going to do all your detection. And really, I use my scope for the final identification and shot placement. It's also safer. You do not want to be rifle around in directions where you shouldn't at the end of the day. You know, it's not good practice. It's tiring. It's just, you know, I mean, you can put it down to safety. Just safety. Don't do it. It's much better to do it with a monocular first. It also gives you the opportunity, like, you know, if you're shooting foxes or pigs or deer, you can always throw it under a red light as well. So you can start with a monocular. You can get yourself into position, and then you can light it up with either a red light or a spotlight or whatever. So, you know, that I think would be the best way to start. And that's certainly what we encourage people to do anyway. All right. So what we're going to do is see this final list of questions. Okay. Tony has asked, can you set up different profiles for different loads in this scope? Yes. All the InfiRay Ricoh devices allow you to have 3 profiles and then 3 distances per profile. So effectively, you could have 9 profiles if you wrote down what, which profile was for each load or each rifle or whatever. you could certainly do that. But you could also have one profile, call it profile for gun A, which might be your 223, and you could zero it at 50, 150, and 300 meters and switch between them. Personally, I don't do that because I find myself mucking around. I tend to zero my scope at its maximum point blank range, and then I've got a pretty flat, through there. Knowing your trajectory is something they still, you still need to do. David has asked, can it spot zombies? Yeah, that's a good one, eh? Yes, they can. It's been confirmed, but we can't say too much more about it. Josh has asked, have we noticed any freezing issues, or you know of any issues of thermal scopes freezing with other brands? I'm not going to be commenting on other brands tonight, but I will say that, again, being quite technically down the track, we're seeing less and less issues with device as a whole. Certainly not something out of firmware can't fix, or someone using the wrong type of batteries like the CR123s and so on. But it's, you don't see a lot of those issues these days. It's certainly something that happened a lot, a number of years ago as this technology was newer and newer in the civilian market. You got to remember that what we get in the civilian market is not built the same way it is in other law enforcement and military applications, where it's probably a little sturdier. So, it is pretty good these days. All right, Mr. B, given stock issues everywhere in most stuff, how's InfiRay stock levels looking for all the new stuff they have released? I think the stock issues are just because we buy it all. I think we're causing it. No, look, good question. I would say we're having very good success keeping on top of our stock at the end of the day. There are a few little bits and pieces that InfiRay, that are coming, and we'll get into the ZH50 we'll get into shortly, which is the new Monocular, which I think are a little bit behind schedule. But apart from that, no, we're keeping on top of our stock. Everyone's just kind of keeping buying it pretty well. But, the manufacturers that control their complete manufacturing process are probably in a better position to meet stock demands. And what I mean by that is InfiRay make their sensors. Not every manufacturer in the world makes their sensors, and they're relying on other manufacturers to supply the sensors. Okay. RL42 battery drop. Okay, Jamie, if that one is an issue about this RL42, mate, just get hold of me after this, and we will talk about this. What about repairs and warranties? All right, good questions by both Dean and Frisky Dragon. Oh, that's not one you want to bump into a paddock at night. Repairs are done locally in Australia, typically, and warranties are 3 years. Now, everyone does warranty different. The way Hunt the Night do warranty is like this. If you have an issue with a device, and it doesn't matter what the device is in terms of brand, if it fails, I will get it back from you and send you a loan device, and simple as that. And once your device is repaired or replaced, I'll send it back to you and get my one back. I like to do warranty like that because I don't like to see people out of thermal. It's a huge investment, and people put money into it, and there's got to be a good warranty. Now, that's how we do warranty. It's not how everyone does warranty. It's just how we do warranty. Okay, so the RH35, there's a few questions here about what the pricing is. I'm just jumping onto our website, and it is $5599.95, and that comes with free shipping. So just under $5,600 is this version of the Ricoh series. Okay, so all right. So we're going to wind up this product, and we are going to move on to the next product. Karen's just sending me another list of things. Can you explain shutterless technology, Ian? Chris, does it have power output? Yes, it's got analog out, but it's got perfect at last, so it's not NTSC out. Can you go from a 22 to a 308 easily? Yes, the quick detach mounts will get you there as long as you're not really changing base tension, because it's all Picatinny slots. And if you put it on the Picatinny rail, then in the same spot, you're going to get an effective return to zero. Jack, look, this is a good question. I keep trying to wind this quite up, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Do you think it is better to have a LRF on a monocular or a scope? That is a great question for two reasons. Because 90% of the time, I'm going to say you would have it on your monocular rather than your scope, because your monocular is about getting you into an effective range for shooting. That's what I find it. I don't pull my rifle out until I know I'm kind of in a position where I'm going to shoot. So, on my monocular is perfect. Then I not need to worry about on my scope. But where it's important on a scope is if you're shooting subsonic. And if you're shooting subsonic, for instance, I shoot subsonic 308, my drop between 50 and 100 is huge. So I need to know the distance before I pull the trigger, because if a deer moves 15 meters, that's going to be a change in holdover for me. So it really comes down to how I'm shooting or what I'm shooting. But I'd say 90% of the time, an LRF on the monocular is the best idea and way to go. And Jack and Sharon Little, to tie it in, what would be a good monocular to pair with this? Mate, it is hard to go past the InfiRay FH35R Finder II. That has been an incredible seller since we launched it a couple of weeks back, or a number of weeks ago now. It is absolutely fantastic.
A lot of people are asking about how it works in high and low temperatures.
Okay, so functionally it works the same because we're talking about heat. Environment will play a huge part on it. So if you're in a hot climate and you want to use it during the day, and yes, thermal does run during the day, things like rocks hold a lot of heat, but they don't look like a deer. So it really comes down to what it is you're shooting and the environment you're shooting in. You'll find sometimes in really bad cold environments, for instance, as well, especially if you get out at night and there's been no real heat retained in the trees and so on, then you're really going to have issues with seeing background definition, because there's not a lot of heat in terms of the environment's very the same. Animals will stick out like no man's business because they're going to present at kind of that 38 type degrees in terms of body heat. But trees and everything else from an environmental point of view, you're going to get a lot of washout and not a lot of definition in that scenario. All right, so let's take this one away, and let's start giving some stuff away, or otherwise we're going to get to the end of the night and we're not going to give anything away. So let's start with giving away this little monocular. Now I'm going to ask a question, and it's kind of going to be fast thing up first, I guess, to try and get it. And this will actually test people's knowledge in terms of how well you know our YouTube channel, because our YouTube channel, we have a lot of videos. And on one of the videos that I did early on, I'm going to be scared if no one knows the answer to this. I cut up a film, and I cut up a film to start the video. Does anyone know the film that I'm talking about? Look in the comments. Oh, there's a big lag between it going from me to there.
Yeah, because everyone's checking on YouTube.
All right, the film. All right. Well, let's throw something else in here. I'll give you a hint.
Power Rangers.
No. No, James, not Power Rangers. All right. What about if the answer was 42? That's what the film. That was the crux of what we're trying to get to.
Nope.
I do, but I forgot its name. All right. All right. We'll try something else. Well, okay. There's another one Karen gave me. In one of the YouTube videos that we ran, I had a bottle of whiskey. Actually, 2 bottles of whiskey. One was a really shit one and one was a really good one. Does anyone know? I know. John Bright got the answer. Oh, John. As long... No, don't get out. Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. Right. John, as long as you live in Australia, mate, you have won this little eye series thermal monocular given to us by Ground Force. So, John, if you can please email contact@huntthenight.com.au with your details, we will get this little thermal monocular out to you. James Thompson was very close. We was going to say the Macallan whiskey. Oh, James, you're gonna get a hat, mate. You're gonna get a Hunt Night hat because I didn't get to finish the question, but you got the answer. So, James Thompson, if you can also email contact@huntthenight.com.au, mate, you'll get the hat. All right, so we are going to move on. I'm going to change my specification sheet over, and let's look at our next product. All right, we'll get rid of those two. All right. Who wants to talk about clip-ons? And this is a PG-rated broadcast, so they're clip-ons. All right, hang on, I'm just going to grab some water. All right, now, this is the brand new InfiRay CH50W. Now, I put up a little bit of teaser footage on this on Facebook earlier. I'm going to play a little bit of footage now while I start talking about this, because I think this thing is pretty cool. And the reason I think it's pretty cool is because I reckon clip-ons in general are pretty cool. So what is the difference with this? Let's open it up for a start. It is going to affect my postage cost because it's now got to go into a large box instead of a medium box. But this is the brand new CH50W from InfiRay. Now, I'm going to take out a couple of components here to show what they are. Now, there are a lot of people in the world that will say a clip-on is not as good as a and Leah, that is such a good question. I'm literally about to talk to that question. There are a lot of people in the world that will say clip-ons are not as good as a thermal scope, and I reckon a couple of years ago that was probably true, because a couple of years ago we didn't have the high definition screens that we have in these devices now. We didn't have the adapter systems as good as they are. You know, there was a lot of things that have improved over the last couple of years in terms of thermal clip-on technology, and there's a couple of reasons why I really, really like clip-ons. Now, Leah's question, excellent question. Why are clip-ons as expensive as a thermal scope? Now, you win a fox whistle for that, and I'm going to throw a stubby holder in there as well. So, Leah, if you could please email contact@huntthenight.com.au, you are going to get this. Because the only difference between this device and another device in terms of specifications this is a 640 by 512 scope, has got a 50mm focal length. It's a very, very high-end specification device because it costs the same to make. The only difference is it doesn't have an eyepiece here, and some of the software is a little bit different. It still has to be good for recoil. It's got to be good, in terms of handling it and everything else. Where it actually has to perform better is in the back of the unit. And in the back of these CH50Ws, they've got this huge, I don't know why you can see it, this huge objective lens here that if I was to turn the screen on, I don't know what batteries in this. I'm about to find out. No, it doesn't matter anyway. I was just going to make a point, not anything else. These are, as good as anything else. Now, where I actually prefer clip-ons is clip-ons like this. this clip-on here is designed for higher base magnification scopes. So typically speaking, a clip-on is limited, and this is the little monocular attachment. These are not a monocular, but we'll get to that in a second. Typically speaking, a clip-on is limited to about 4 or 5 power in terms of its magnification, in terms of what it can be used with. Karen, I'm going to get you to just read these while I talk. You can read through there. These are the YouTube comments coming through too. Okay. And if you click on them, you can show them on the screen. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, they're typically limited to kind of 4 or 5 power in terms of magnification. After that, when the scope zooms on the back of the screen, you get a lot of pixelation, and it's like putting your head right up against the TV and seeing the separation of the pixels. This one and another brand, really expensive one, are designed for higher magnifications, and this one in particular. And this one here, you know, I zeroed this in the other day, and I can't really show you the footage of it because you'd only see what comes from this end. But I zeroed this in the other day at 50 meters on a small piece of foil, and I was on 20 magnification without a problem. You know, it's and you don't get the digital effect. So when you start digitally zooming in a scope, software kicks in, and you get things like algorithms that create pixels and pixel cloning in order to fill the image and the screen. And I won't cover it now, but if you haven't seen my the importance of base magnification part 2, go watch that after this, because that'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. You're optically zooming into the back of the screen, and you're getting really good. You just do that. Okay, you're optically zooming into the back of the screen, so you're not getting that digital zoom effect. So, you know, there's no huge disadvantage to using a good clip-on thermal scope these days. The versatility to be able to switch it between different scopes, and if we grab like an adapter, for instance, you know, you can have different adapters of different sizes for different scopes, and you get a great return to zero. And, you know, these just clip on and off, and you're on the scope. This scope here can hold 4 different gun profiles. Now, I don't typically zero my scopes using the internal software, my clip-ons rather. I adjust my tolerance. But this one here is actually quite good if you use the internal ones. And the other thing I like about it as well, and I'm just going to bring up some footage, is a lot of clip-ons, when you use them, you won't see the whole screen. So sorry, what I mean is you won't see the whole menu. So you can see here in this footage, the menu's down the bottom because it's in monocular mode at the moment. But in a moment, I'm going to switch this over, and I'm going to go into the menu. And then when you go into the menu, you're actually going to be able to see. Just hang on. This is in monocular mode. So in monocular mode, you can zoom. When it's in clip-on mode, you can't zoom, because if you'd zoomed it in clip-on mode, you'd actually the image wouldn't be a 1-to-1 image ratio. So I'm going to turn off monocular, and you can see here that when I switch between G1 down the bottom, I hope this is the video I do it in. I cut the wrong one. Hang on. Let me grab the right video. Let me in this one with our horses. And I'll just kind of skip into the menu. Okay, hopefully this is the one where I go through. I'm going to let it run, because what it'll do is in gun 1 and 2, it's designed, the menu system is designed to be placed for scopes that best fit 1 to 4 magnification in base mag. Okay, so that way you get to see the whole menu in base mag. When you use gun 3 and 4, that the menu system is then designed for magnification ranges of 5 to 9. So you'll see the whole menu in magnifications of 5 to 9. And I got to say, one of my pet hates about clip-ons was that you couldn't see the whole menu, and you know, when it's on. And you know, InfiRay have done a real good job of working with that. So I'm just going to scroll down here. Okay. Carl has said, sorry, Wayne has said, no, the clip-on will not interfere with the zero. Okay. And Rodney, okay. I'm going to answer Rodney's questions first. Hi, Rodney. Welcome to the channel. How do clip-ons go with illuminated reticles? Brilliantly. And I'll say brilliantly because if you want to shoot in black hot, for instance, with a clip-on, you need an illuminated reticle really, because your reticle in your day scope is typically going to be black. So black on black doesn't really work. So typically I find myself with most, if I've just got my standard Leopold 3 to 9 on, I'm shooting in white hot, which isn't my favorite always to shoot in. I actually prefer shooting in black hot. I scan in white hot. So illuminated reticles are really good. First focal planes also work really well in this as well, because all your holdover information is going to be the same. Brett has asked, is the battery internal or remote with the clip-on? You can do both. So they take CR123 batteries, which are the small, batteries and you can buy rechargeable ones, or you can use a external battery pack to go with it as well. I'm going to swing. Okay. Does the weight of the clip-on pull at the scope 0? It's not the weight of the clip-on that changes the 0. It's the clip-on itself and the fact that you're looking at a screen. Now, when these come out of the factory, they do go through a process of alignment, but that alignment is not always necessarily perfect because it's done digitally. But every time you make a change to your rifle, whether it be a clip-on, a different ammunition, whatever it is, you got to check the 0. And you put a scope on with new rings, you've got to check the 0. When you put these on, you've got to check the 0. Now, on our YouTube channel, I've done a point of impact test by the leading, clip-ons out there on the market, and every single one of them had a different point of impact as opposed to when I had my glass scope on by itself. But that's not a negative. It just is what it is. Some of them, it doesn't really matter, and certainly just depending on the size targets, but there will always be, in my experience, a point of impact shift. And the way I zero them is I just change my turrets and I write down my X and Y, or my windage and elevation change, and then I go from there. All right.
I don't know if you want to answer.
Cool. Do I need a monocular if you have a clip-on? That is an excellent question. Who asked that question?
Georgia.
All right.
Okay, we'll find out.
We're going to find out who asked that question, because that person is going to win something as well. We're going to throw in another fox whistle with another stubby holder, because there's companies out there that market these devices as monoculars and a clip-on. Personally, I think if you're trying to get it to do two things, you're going to compromise one. This does not work well as a monocular because the way the screen is. Now I'm going to hold it up to your eye. It works okay as a monocular, but in the field, you aren't going to take this monocular attachment on and off, put this attachment, back on and off, and then try and shoot something. Even to get this on and off, in the field and put a monocular attachment on like from other devices, it's really one or the other. I don't think it's ever both. And from a functional point of view, you really start to compromise the device. Like, this is an excellent clip-on. It's not a great monocular. Okay. So I don't think from that point of view, you want to try and use it as both. All right. Okay, would I recommend a clip-on to a person first starting out rather than a scope? Okay, and Cherie, that's an excellent question. And, part of what I do is really talk to people about what it is they're trying to do. Because if you've got a whole bunch of different rifles with good glass objectives and you don't really want to put Picatinny rails on them, and there's certainly rifles out there that you can't really put Picatinny rails on, clip-ons are a really good alternative. I don't actually think they're that bad these days at all. I think, I use clip-ons all the time. I actually have, I don't have a bias towards them or not towards them. They're just another tool in the availability of what we have in terms of thermal devices. The versatility of them is extremely handy, being able to move them from one device, to another. The downside, though, I will say the downside to the clip-on is the battery system. You know, the CR123 batteries aren't great. You'll get maybe kind of 2 hours out of the rechargeables of constant use out of it. You can just mount a battery pack to your stock. Now, let's get into this specific device, because this device is the new one from InfiRay, and there's a few things about this that are a little bit different to the existing CH50 V2. Sorry, I needed a drink break. Now, the biggest difference is this one records and has Wi-Fi. Now, I am going to find the batteries that I had here earlier. Sorry, guys. I should have been a little bit more prepared for this part of the demonstration. And we're going to have a look at how well this works. So, Dave asks, how much does this clip-on weigh? The specification without batteries is around 590 grams. So these are the CR123 batteries. I'm just going to pop these into here, turn the unit on. You can see it's just it's powering up. And I'm going to grab my phone. Sorry, Karen. Oh, no, here it is. And let me just hook up to the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to hook up to the Wi-Fi on this little device and help turn it on. And then I'm going to get my daughter who's down here, take it for a little bit of a walk out to the end of the shed. And you'll see how well it works from a Wi-Fi point of view too. You can record via this device and you can record via Wi-Fi, you know, as well. It's much nicer than from that point of view than the original CH50s, which didn't have any type of internal recording. So,
what do people use Wi-Fi for, Ben? Sean asked.
Internet access. Oh, you mean on devices? Okay.
Where's the draw card? Why would you choose something with Wi-Fi?
The draw card is like if you're remote mounting something for a start, people like using Wi-Fi. Okay. Georgia, can you just go walk that over there to the? Just point it out there. I'll bring it up on here. If you've actually recorded something, so part of my work, you know, as a a shooter, you get paid for shooting, is I record everything. So if anything ever goes wrong, I can go back to my customers and show them what they're doing, or that it wasn't me rather. Hang on, it's not connected. Sorry, I'm just connecting this device to my phone. All right. And we'll put that here. Actually, Georgia, yeah. Can you come back this way, please? You're a bit far away. Hang on. She went for a wander a little bit further than I asked her to. Well, than I expected her to. So give me a second. We're pushing the limits of it. Gotta love these live. Okay, there we go. So we'll put that into full screen mode. And if you can see that, I mean, that's just on my phone. She's now gone for a walk out the door. And, you know, we've now got thermal. And I can record via this app, or I could record via the actual device as well. You know, so it's pretty cool. So why do people want to use it? Yeah, look, basically because lots of people these days, we use social media a lot. We may have an observer with us, you know, as well, in terms of one of our kids, for instance, or we might be shooting and they might be looking at a screen. George, you can bring it back now. They might be looking at a screen while we're actually conducting the ground shooting activities. So there's a whole bunch of, you know, reasons why people use it. You know, and again, you know, you can remote mount devices, and it doesn't have to be this device, but it could be a different device. You can remote mount it and put it on an iPad in a car, and you can be driving around a paddock and scanning without having to get out. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why you would actually use, you know, Wi-Fi as well. Will the Wi-Fi, Dean's asked, will the Wi-Fi cut out in the middle of a hunt, or does it need to be physically disabled? Different devices will handle Wi-Fi differently in terms of when you reboot the device, it'll either be on or off. So, you know, with the InfiRay device, when you reboot it, it's off, and that's a battery saving thing. In terms of will it cut out, I wouldn't say it shouldn't cut out, you know, unless you walk out of, you know, you're out of the Wi-Fi range. You know, then it should be good. So that's a little bit about this new device. Yeah, we'll run a little bit of footage. The IP rating is IP67 rated, I believe, which are like almost IP66, which pretty much all InfiRay devices are. And, you know, so you can use this out in inclement weather and so on as well. It's also got video out if you want to hardwire it out. So it'll go video out via RCA as well. What is the best way to sight in a thermal scope? Oh, okay, Mary. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it on YouTube. No, this is not an inline unit. This is a mounted unit with an adapter. So it's not an inline unit in terms of putting it on a Picatinny rail. What is the Wi-Fi range? It's about 15 meters. Georgia then was about 10 meters away, and when she got to kind of about 13 or 14, it started causing a little bit of a problem.
Does the Wi-Fi work without internet?
Yes. So when we talk about Wi-Fi, and I actually get this question a lot, when we talk about Wi-Fi on these devices, this is creating the Wi-Fi network. So you don't need cell service or phone service. You don't need, you know, other Wi-Fi service or anything like that. This unit itself creates the Wi-Fi.
And can you hook up more than one device at the same time?
Yes, you need to. You need to. Sorry, I'm just laughing because Rodney's telling me a few things. Yes, Rodney, I know. A little tablecloth with half the night would look really good, but this is my bench where I've done all my videos. Yes, you can run up to 4 devices on it as well, but just be in mind, you're going to drain the battery the more Wi-Fi signals you put onto it. And when you're effectively getting kind of 2 to 3 hours out of batteries, then it's not necessarily, be great. Does it, Jamie, does it auto calibrate? Yes, you can either have this on manual calibration or it can be on auto calibration. You can do either or. When it's on manual calibration, you do have to close the cap to calibrate it.
Andrew asked, can clip-ons fit all scopes pending the adapters?
Look, generally speaking, we'd run them from 30 mil all the way up to about 67 mil, in terms of adapters. So you shouldn't have too much of an issue. Just don't forget that the magnification, especially when you get down those real small ones, like, I've got a Delta Titanium 1.5 to 9. Most of my clip-ons don't really start working well until kind of 2.5. So I see the barrel and the screen. So I would say, your best kind of scopes are probably starting kind of in that 40 mil, like outer housing range, where you're getting kind of that 2.5, 3.5 magnification. That's what I kind of look for, what I found in mine. How long does it take to turn on? Katie, good question. These take about 20 seconds to boot up, or maybe a little bit less, maybe 15 seconds to boot up, and they're operational. Excellent question by Anya Michael. We don't use the adapter systems. Oh, sorry, we only use fitted adapters. I don't like using spacers, because any type of misalignment in this with a spacer or anything, so any type of misalignment is going to cause you a return to zero issue. We only use the Rusin adapters. Now, it would be easier for us not to use the Rusin adapters because we've got to import them from Croatia rather than using the adapters that are available to us. But we much prefer using the Rusin ones because they're better and you get a much better consistency in terms of its in terms of zeroing. So, Anya Michael, if you could please shoot us an email to contact@huntthenight.com.au and with your jumper size, because you are going to get a Hunt the Night hoodie. There you go. And look, he's you know, with the follow-up question, fantastic. First focal plane or second focal plane, they both work. Obviously, your second focal plane holdover won't work unless you're at full magnification, where your first focal planes will work, you know, at any magnification. So, you know, you can use either first or second focal plane in these. I know guys that are reticle shooters, so are shooting very precise, and they're using clip-ons because they're using first focal plane devices and they know all their holdover. Yeah, I like Frisky Dragon better as well.
Oh, I've got a good question.
Yep.
Heath wants to know, do clip-ons affect scope warranty?
I got competing interests. I want to say no, but I don't know. I guess it would depend what you tell whoever you bought it from. Tim, do InfiRay run a standby mode? Yes, they do run a standby mode, and it's a matter of just holding the power button down and then putting it back on, and it will instantly go back on. So it's a shorter hold down. Actually, with the clip-on device, I think it's actually just an instant. With the Ricoh devices, you hold it, it will go into standby, then you press it, and then it will come back out of standby instantly. So yes, they do. Oh, Daniel, do you ship with an invoice for what I told the wife I'm paying for? Yeah, we can. You know, I had an order come through the other day, and it was quite a substantial order. And in the comments of the web order, it actually said, I think her name was Cheryl, but it said, "Don't tell Cheryl." we really do try. Well, you know, you can have that discussion, mate. We don't put the invoices in the box because invoices are emailed to you. There you go. I hope that helps.
We got a question.
Okay, hang on, Jack. Hang on. Is this device one-to-one magnification? Every single clip-on device in clip-on mode is one-to-one magnification. It has to be to create a one-to-one image ratio. That's why in this device, so another key change they made in this device, in the InfiRay CH50 V2, the original V2, not this one, you could actually zoom the device in when it's in clip-on mode. And when you do that, you'll get a point of impact change because you go from 1 to 1 to 1 to 2 magnification and then 1 to 4 magnification. So you'll get a point of impact change, where this one here, you can no longer zoom the device when it's in clip-on mode. You have to be in handheld mode in the menu in order to be able to zoom this. So that's an excellent question. And that one gets you a vacuum cup to keep you warm on those cold nights. So Cruise62, if you could please email contact@huntthenight.com.au, we'll get that out to you. Okay, my daughter Georgia is pestering me and then giving me eyes about ignoring her question. What is the question? Wait,
So Alistair's asked, do the adapters require flat-fronted scopes, or can they be used with scopes like the Night Eaters?
I don't know the Night Eater, but I will say that the bell housing shouldn't be tapered, okay? Because this whole part of the adapter, and I'll measure it for you. My calipers are just, my veneers were just here, and then I moved everything to create myself some space. Okay, well, I'm not going to measure it because my, oh, no, she's not my loading bench. Well, if I grab a 223 shell, this is the universal measure that everyone will understand. It goes to about neck height, all right, or shoulder height rather, from a T23. You want that in the whole. You want that in the whole. That's got to be, you know, it can't be tapered through there. It's got to be flat in order to get it right. All right.
Oh, there's Afterpay.
Okay. So, no, it's not Afterpay, it's ZipPay.
Oh, ZipPay.
Oh, we do lay-by, but that's a question they can call us during the week for. Okay, so let's wrap up this. Has anyone got any other specific questions regarding this clip-on? No?
Can't see any.
Cool.
Yes, from Sherry. Is this a good thing for first timers?
I'm going to say, and there's probably less of a learning curve using a clip-on device than there is using a dedicated thermal scope, because you're already used to the zeroing system that you have to do in terms of using your windage and elevation. So putting this on the front isn't as big a change for you, because you're going to shoot it at a target. You're going to see what the impact is, and you're going to make the adjustment. You know, but it really comes down to what the magnification of the scope you want to put it on. And that's probably, you know, a question you can give me a call about, and you know, we can talk it through a bit further.
And we have another one from Jack. Do you need parallax for clip-on?
Okay, excellent. Because Michael's just kind of asked the same type of question. How do I get the parallax adjustment on the scope? I tend to find that my parallax is set at about 50 meters on these, but you can adjust the parallax to get the image quality, you know, to how you want it as well. I have been doing a little bit of testing on parallax and point of impact, and I haven't seen a huge correlation between the two, but I haven't been doing it at ranges that I need to be really tested at yet. So I will. That's actually part of a that's actually part of a new video I'm actually working on as well in terms of parallax and scopes. On your Michael, excuse your ignorance, no worries. So the gun 1, 2, 3, 4 options in this device means you can have 4 different zeros. So if you use the internal internal zeroing system in this scope, you can have it, say for instance, your 223, your 270, your 308, and your 6.5 Creedmoor, if you're inclined that way. You can have that as gun 1, 2, 3, and 4. They'll hold your different zeros, so you can switch between those rifles. Just change the zero profile, and you don't need to worry about zeroing again. Yes.
So one from Elvis: would you attach a clip-on to a Picatinny rail?
If the device is designed for it, then yes, you can. Now, this device isn't designed for it. There are certain devices on the market that are, but this isn't one of them. Would I do it? I don't know. I've never tried it, so I don't really have a good qualified answer in terms of what it's like compared to using a the housings that we have.
Okay. When's our next demo night?
Oh, we'll get back to that one. It's winter. I'm a fair weather shooter and a fair weather demo nighter. We'll figure that. We'll
keep an eye
be getting
on the Facebook page.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Andy, Outback cost on these devices. Recommended retail price on these are $59.99. Okay, so George has got a hand up.
Another one from Kathleen: does the auto calibration happen spontaneously, or does it initiate once the clip-on is powered on, or does it take long? And does it take long? Sorry.
It will cycle about every 30 to 45 seconds, and it happens automatically. So if you have it on manual, you manually initiate it, but if it's on auto, it'll actually be part of its initiation sequence when you turn the device on, and then continually go from there.
Yep. And one from John: is there any IRF on this clip-on?
LRF? No, there's no laser rangefinder. It does have what is called the Statademic, or whatever it is, the software rangefinders on here, but I find them not very reliable.
And one from Luke: is there threads on the bottom of the clip-on?
Yes, there is. It has 2 threads on the bottom of the clip-on. So I guess you could kind of put a mount on it, but you'd have to have the mount. If you wanted to mount this on a Picatinny rail, you'd still want to have the adapter housing in order to ensure that the screen is in the correct position and that low light gets in. So you just need to make sure the mount would have to be the right height as well.
We have one from Neil: what about if you have a 6.5 Creedmoor that identifies as a 308 Winchester?
Well, some people would say there's only one 308 caliber, which is a 308. But, you know, in that case, Neil, I guess you've got a, 6.5 that identifies as a 308. And that's okay. Just don't try and put a 308 round through it. All right. One more.
This one's from Lachlan. Recommended fox shooting distance for this clip-on.
Well, fox shooting distance is always going to come down to, the scope that you've got it on. So, I was using another clip on the other night on my Delta Titanium. No, my Delta Striker 4.5. No, it wasn't. It was on the Delta Titanium 1.5 to 9, and I headshot a fox at 140 meters without a problem. It comes down to your ability. You know, if you can push the magnification on this scope, you know, to 9, 10, 11 power without a problem. So, you know, that comes down to how comfortable you are and how well you can put a shot placement on a fox within that kind of magnification range. Okay, so the biggest difference between this and the older model is that this one records and the older one doesn't. That's the biggest one. There's a few things that have changed in the firmware in terms of not being able to zoom in when in clip-on mode and the way the menu is now set up. So, you know, if you're in a high magnification, so 1, 3, and 4 are designed for scopes that have got magnification of 3 to 9, 5 to 9 in terms of, you know, bases, then you'll see the whole menu. So there's a little bit, you know, in terms of that, but in terms of the overall thing, there's not a heap of difference between the, you know, the two units. This does have a detection range of 2,597 meters. You know, that's a really long way.
Oh, can you see snakes in thermal?
You know, I don't like to see snakes without thermal, so I don't try to look either way. I don't know. That's a really good question. I guess if everything else is hot around them, you might see them because they would be cold. All right. Okay, so a little bit about Lrfs on clip-ons. I think they'd be really, really difficult just because of the way the digital overlay would have to run. And you have to remember that it doesn't know what magnification scope you've got on, so you don't see the whole screen all the time. The higher the magnification, the less of this screen you actually see. And you see that with a lot of clip-ons on the market when you get up into like 6 or 7 magnification and you go into the menu and you can't see really any of the menu. So I don't know how well an Lrf implementation would work on something like this. Georgia.
So we've got one from Ben. When do you think the next generation will come out, and how often would you have to upgrade?
Look, as a retailer, I think we should be upgrading every 6 months. Just that's just my standard answer. No, look, honestly, we've just seen a huge leap in technology in terms of, you know, the availability of 12 micron chips over 17 micron chips and cheaper sensors, and, you know, there's been a fair change in terms of price point. But I try and talk people out of having to buy something they don't need. So if you've got something that's working well now and it's working well tomorrow, it's going to be working well the day after. So you shouldn't need to upgrade. If you start at the low end and buy something as an introductory level thing, a device, because you don't want to spend lots of money and you're thinking maybe I'll replace this, you know, in 2 years to buy something, you know, a bit better, that's different. But if you buy something for your needs now, you shouldn't need to upgrade it anytime soon. Unless you get really bad FOMO, like I do.
We got one from Elwood. How much variation in size is there with the adapter? Will it fit multiple scopes, or are they individual? No, look, there's about 0.4 of a mil between the different scopes now, and they get very, very specific in terms of them. So if you ever look at this adapter, for instance, and if you can read that, it's 58.4 mil. That is for a Leopold 50 mil objective scope. So that won't fit, a 58 mil won't fit because 0.4 mil is about the maximum amount of tolerance that it's got. So you need a separate adapter for each scope. Got a bit more. One from David that quite a couple of people have been asking. Is thermal better than night vision, and why? All right. So a little bit of a different topic. I've seen the question a few times. I wasn't really going to get into it tonight because it's not quite this product related. But, okay, we'll cover it. Yes, there you go. Oh, you need the Y bit. Okay. Yes and no. Night vision works brilliantly in the environment that it's suited for. So what night vision is not good for is things like trees, scrubs, long grass, fog, rain, inclement weather, that type of stuff. Because the way night vision works is it broadcasts an IR signal, and that IR signal is going to hit something, and then the sensor is going to determine what that is. Now, if it hits a tree, you can't. There's no depth penetration to IR.
we cover that off a little more in our introduction to thermal hunting nights, which we'll start running the webinars again shortly. So maybe, that's a little bit of a teaser to get you onto one of them. They're small group sessions. They're normally 6 to 8 people, and we go through things a little bit more. I will say this. Thermal will always be the king of detection. Night vision will always be the king of identification. So if you need to identify a species in order to be able to shoot it, and specifically roo harvesters, where it's species and sex orientated, you can't use thermal for it because you can't tell. Night vision, you can tell. But night vision is severely limited by the environment that it's operating in. All right. Okay, so we got more stuff to give away. Let's give away something cool, something I don't have. So I don't have the InfiRay TD50L night vision scope here. Ta-da-da-da-da. But it is a night vision scope, and it's fantastic. It's really good. Neil, who's actually on the screen, has got one. I'll just quickly answer this question. On your Michael, in regards to eye fatigue, is a clip-on less than a dedicated thermal scope? I think eye fatigue comes more so from screen brightness and head position more than anything else. Screen brightness is kind of going to be the same, or some of them are a little bit less, but your eye relief is generally a little bit better because you tend to retain the eye relief that you've already got on your day scope. So I would probably say that your eye fatigue, it's probably not noticeable, but it might be a little bit better using a clip-on than it is a dedicated scope. But I think I don't think it'd be that noticeable. What I will say is, my head is generally in a better position, and I don't get a sore neck as some of the other screens that I put myself into and positions. Okay, all right, back to this now. I'm going to give this one away. There's been some really good questions asked in this little section, and I'm going to say a name that has stuck out a few times, who's asked a really good couple of questions on here, is Anya Michael.
Michael already won a hoodie.
Oh, he already won a hoodie. I can't give you the scope. Sorry, mate. Who else has asked some really good ones here? I know Neil's already got one, so I can't give Neil one. He's already asked some good questions. No, let's make it question answer based. Okay. We'll keep it easy. For those that were paying attention, what is the main difference between the CH50W and the CH50 V2, the predecessor? Oh, all right. People are saying yes, I can. Hang on. No, we'll give it to Michael. We'll give it to Michael. He asked a whole bunch of really good questions. It was Karen who told me otherwise. That's all right. We'll do that. Come on. We'll give you, Michael, we'll give you the scope. We'll put the hoodie back in, all right? All right.
Got a question, sorry.
Yes.
So from Marcia, how does the TD50 compare to the TH50?
Well, we're not at the TD50 yet. Okay. Oh, the TD50?
TD50.
Okay, so the TD50 is a night vision scope. The TH50 is a thermal scope. So, Michael, let me know if you want it in 850 or 950. And again, just shoot us that email to contact@huntthenight.com.au. And when it comes back in, we will get it to you. All right? All right. Now, let's get into, yes, I do, the next device. So the next device is a monocular. And this is the brand new ZH50 Zoom monocular from, obviously, InfiRay. Now, the InfiRay, the ZH38 has been out for a little bit of time, but we'll cover this off in terms of what it is. Firstly, it's very, oh, look at that. Comes with a sticker in the box. As do all our packages. All right. Okay, so this is a very unique device, and it's unique for a couple of reasons. The biggest one, and I'm trying to, talk it up, is this is what is called a dual field of view monocular. So what it means is it operates in both a 25mm focal length and a 50mm focal length. So you could say it has a 25mm lens and a 50mm lens built in, which means it has got digital zoom. So let me bring up a little bit of, sorry, it's got optical zoom, not digital zoom. Let me bring up a little bit of footage for you displaying this. Now I want to get the right footage. Give me a moment. And it also does audio recording, which I'm going to turn off for now. In a sec. Okay, beauty. So let me share this, add it to the stream. So looking above our shed again into that paddock that's 600 odd meters away, you can see up here on the top right, I've just switched into what's called 50, and that's a 50mm optical zoom. So instead of relying on digital zoom, this device does both a 25mm and the same, a 25mm and a 50mm monocular all in one. So it's quite a sizable device. It's a little bit bigger. It feels more, it's bigger. It's very comfortable to hold. It's got a beautiful eye cup. It's got a very high resolution screen in the back. So this has got a 1440 by 1080 screen in the back. It's a typical 0.4 of an inch size. It uses the same battery system as the Ricoh devices, like this. So you get a good probably 6 to 7 hours of battery time out of it. It's very, very comfortable to hold, but the coolest part of this is its optical zoom. It has the same kind of color palettes as all the other InfiRay devices, but one thing that I've noticed with this is your environment plays a really big role in what type of color palette you use. So if I have a look at this one, and we'll go through a couple of different color palettes and I'll talk you through it. So in this one here in Black Hot, and typically I like using Black Hot a fair amount, you can see here it's really, really hard to see down to this tree level, where if we scroll through this, you didn't see those horses a second ago in Black Hot. They were really blending in with the environment. So I'm just going to go back a little bit just to show you. You just can't see them. And that's because those trees are still holding heat and they're creating quite a bit of shadow in there as well from the way that moon was sitting when I was doing this. But in White Hot, it works absolutely brilliantly in terms of its detection. So those horses were down at the back of where we are. They're about 200 meters away. You can probably start to hear the rain come in now as well. And, the optical zoom and the color palettes are a huge selection. And if you have a look then at the environmental effect that, let me grab another video here, the environmental effect that having a look up on the paddock is, in this one, sorry, you'll see in White Hot, you can hardly see that there's, much in the way of dots up there. You're getting a huge amount of blooming from these trees. And when we switch through the color palettes, you'll start to see the fence lines. You'll start to see the animals. Because now we're shooting up into a bit more atmosphere as well. So I've noticed with this monocular, and like, most monoculars, this device here really is reliant, the color palette section is really, really reliant on its environment. So I'll go a bit more footage of this one. So I've got a little bit more as well of some deer in the trees when I was out on the job the other night. And look at the texture of this bark. I think that absolutely fantastic. fantastic. Now, these are really different to use than a lot of other monoculars, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, I found. But I found that the quality of image you get out of them is, when you're used to it as well, is absolutely fantastic. And not having to rely on digital zoom on these. Now, they do have digital zoom. You can still go through, you know, your 1, 2, 4, and 8 times digital zoom. But what they have is they've got a base magnification of 2.2 in the 25mm focal length, and then a base magnification of 4.4 in the 50mm focal length in its optical. And I reckon they're pretty cool focal lengths to have. I've been using the ZH38 a fair bit, which is 1.6 and 3.2, which is really good for when I'm on my deer type work. But I find this is better for when I'm out, you know, looking for things a little bit further out. It's a very, very nice device. It has all the other capabilities of the other devices in terms of, you know, inbuilt recording and also Wi-Fi recording connectivity. The audio recording on this is absolutely fantastic. Now, I know InfiRay are watching this. Please do this type of audio recording on all your devices. Everyone would be very grateful. We would love it. It's, you know, audio recording makes a huge difference in our ability to communicate over social media how good these devices actually are. You know, as well, not everyone is just about the image quality side of it. All right, so
Cam asked, would the Zoom be ideal as a vehicle-mounted thermal device?
no. And a couple of reasons why I'd say no to that. One, it can be remote mounted. You can hook it to a tripod, but from a center of gravity point of view, it's pretty far back in the body. It's also, you're buying this device and you're using this device, let me get rid of the box, because of its functionality to be able to zoom. You can't, and that's a manual thing. So in order to change the focal planes, you go all the way left or all the way right. That changes it. So it's not a digital transformation, it's optical because it's actually changing the focal length. So I wouldn't, you'd be buying this for the wrong reasons to use it as a vehicle mounted device.
Ian Cameron asked a question about color palette.
Yep.
What would you recommend for finding newborn calves and lambs on the ground?
Oh, look, white hot's probably your easiest. So typically the way I use devices, and look, everyone's different, but studies have shown that, you know, brain activity in men is a bit strange. But when it comes to color palettes, I find that I'm typically scanning in white hot and I'm identifying in black hot. That's typically how I do it. I know other people that are different. You know, it really comes down to how your brain functions as opposed to someone else's. But if I need to find something in shrubs and bushes and trees or grass and so on, I'm typically in white hot because it just sticks out.
Is this top of the range?
Yeah, it's a very, very good unit. You know, it's in terms of, you know, cost wise, it's right up there. You know, it's 5,400 or 5,500 or something like that. It's very well made. This is definitely one of the most refined products I've seen come out of InfiRay. It's very, very lovely to hold. It's very comfortable in your hand. It's really well refined. There's a couple of things actually in it that I'll feed back to them that I'd like to see change. Leah's asked what sensor it is. So this is the 640 version of this device. So 640 by 512 and a 12 micron sensor. What I would like to see them change a little bit is in the menu. And Karen, can I have this for a moment? I'm going to bring up another piece of footage. When you are looking in certain situations, and this one might show it. When you're looking in certain situations, this text, when you're actually looking through the monocular, can be transparent. So some of it washes out sometimes. When it records it beautifully, but that can be a little bit hard to see. So I'll feed that back in my feedback to InfiRay. Hopefully they can update that. But that's about the only thing on the device that I've been super critical of at the moment. Now, these devices are, though, there's one thing you need to be aware of. They're a little bit, I would say, kind of focus fussy. And when you start getting into f1 lenses, so that's another conversation, but these types of lenses, everything is focus fussy because they're very flat images. So you'll find yourself focusing it a fair bit. It's not overly obtrusive, but it's something to be aware of when you're using it. Yes, a fox or a rabbit. Maybe not so much a rabbit. Like a rabbit's a very small target for anything at 200 meters. It would certainly show up, but in terms of identifying it, I think it would be difficult. But you would see a white hot or a black, heat signature at that kind of distance of it. I don't think the fox would be any challenge for it, especially in the 50 mil focal length. That would be pretty simple. And foxes move in a pretty unique and distinct manner as well. What you got there, Georgia?
So these questions might have already been answered. So from Blake, what's the sensor and display screen resolution?
Yeah, so the sensor is the 640 by 512, and the display screen is 1040. Sorry, is 1440 by 1080. So typically, what we see in most thermal devices is display screens more along the lines of what are they typically? 1024, something like that, 1270, 1024 by 768. So this is a high resolution screen from that point of view.
And from Ben, is it like having a wide angle?
Yes, it's like going from a wide angle to then a narrower angle. Sorry, to a zoom.
And from, hang on a second. From Cam, how does the zoom differ from a standard thermal monocular other than digital zoom?
So being optical zoom, it's not digital. So when we digital zoom something, and I'm going to break away a little bit from this. Hang on, this is our question sheet. Let me find something to write on. Hang on. Right. So typically, let's turn that off. What happens? Say this is your thermal sensor, okay? And a thermal sensor is made up of grids and rows, and we've got 640 this way, and we've got 512 this way, okay? So when light comes in, through a lens, and it will come in and point, your sensor sits here, and that's your focal length. It's and I've drawn that really, really small, but anyway, this sensor is receiving all the light from the lens all the time, okay? It never changes. When you zoom, what happens is when you go from 1 magnification to 2 magnification, so we're talking digital zoom, not optical magnification, the sensor goes, or the software goes, okay, I no longer need that. I need to just zoom in this area here, okay? The sensor is still seeing all this information coming out of the lens, but your screen is only now showing that. And that image there is now cropped, okay? And that image now you're using so many less pixels to put it across still a high definition screen. And then when you zoom again, it goes, no, just now I'm only showing this piece, okay? And again, you've now got less and less information every time you do it. So that's why when you digitally zoom, you start to get really bad resolution. So what the optical zoom does, when you have your lens, well, I'm not really drawing it. It's an optical zoom, not a digital zoom. Okay, so if this is your lens, your focal point is changing here rather than cropping an image here. Okay, hope that makes sense. It's certainly something we can go more and more into in our things. Yes, the importance of base magnification. Now, I haven't done one specifically for the zoom in terms of the optical zoom side of things, because this is a pretty new product, but that's on my list to explain this in a little bit more detail as well. But the importance of base magnification, part 2, goes a bit more into digital zoom and why we try and stay away from it.
So from Niels, what's the best base magnification for a thermal monocular to still have a big view?
Look, I like to use around that kind of 2 magnification, 2 to type 2.5, and in a 640 sensor. Okay, so typically speaking, when people say, "Hey, what sensor should I use?" For me, in a monocular, it's a 640, and in the scope, usually, depending on what they're shooting, but a lot of people who I talk to shooting foxes and small games, it's a 384 sensor because you get extra magnification out of it. So, you know, that's the way I look at it. I want that nice wide field of view when I'm scanning for something, but then I want a narrow field of view and more magnification so I can stay away from digital zoom when I then start taking shot placements.
And from Neil, what model is this again?
Okay, so this is the ZH50. So it's the InfiRay Zoom ZH50.
Okay, and from Ray, what do you think about the thermal fusion devices?
Let's not start that conversation, but let's just say there's a reason we don't sell them.
Good one.
Yeah.
And from George, does the Zoom come in a Lrf version?
No, it just comes in a standard handheld version. There's there's not a lot of LRF like monoculars on the market. You know, there's a handful. There's not a lot. Same as there's not a lot of LRF scopes. There's a handful, not a lot. So they are becoming more and more readily available. I know InfiRay are committed to to doing more of them, but that's yeah. Jay Miller, important. Can I see through clothing? Well, if I say yes, will you buy one? No. No, you can't see through clothing. Okay. What else have we got? Anything else about this one?
Yes. So from Blake, does this have the LRF on the tablet like the FH35R?
No, because there's no LRF in this. So yeah, the FH35R has an LRF, but this one doesn't.
And what's the price on this one?
The price on this one, I think off the top of my head, is about $5,400. I can check that. It is on our website for pre-order. I don't yet have an ETA. I don't yet have an ETA on when we're getting stock yet.
Is the battery life on this better than current models?
Current models is, I guess, relative to what you're comparing it to. Having a large battery on it definitely increases the battery life. I'm just trying to see on their specifications where they've battery life doesn't actually say, but from using it out in the field, I've been using it over the last couple of weeks. I haven't come back out of the field and gone, man, I wish I carried the second battery. It does come with 2 batteries, but you know, the lifespan I've had about it pretty good. Oh, okay, so maximum operating time, it says here in 22 degrees environment, so it's going to be significantly less if you're using it in 8 degrees environment, is rated at 10 hours for this device.
So from Mandy, we have, which would you buy out of this model and the FH35R?
Look, they're used for 2 different things. Like, you know, if you want the versatility of a rangefinder, you're going to take the FH35R. You know, the FH35R is smaller, it fits in your pocket, the battery life isn't quite as good out of it. But, you know, if I'm out stalking in the bush type thing, I'm probably going to want something like an FH35R because it's so small. But if I'm lying down in the paddock and I'm waiting for deer to walk out of a tree line, then this is a really nice device for that. So, you know, the screen on this looks bigger than the FH35R. You know, it's without a conversation about how you want to use it. It's a little bit hard to say which is better than, you know, I get a lot of questions. What's the best scope, you know, on the market? I'm like, well, the one that's right for you. So it's difficult without the context, but it's certainly a conversation that we can have. Is this the only thermal device in the InfiRay range that has optical zoom? Yes, Josh, it is. So this one in the ZH38. So you've got the 38mm and the 50mm. They're the only ones that have got optical zoom.
I got one from Travis.
Yep.
Do they have all ranges of digital zoom in both optical zoom settings?
Yes. So from this device, you can still use the digital zoom. So it's still got 1, 2, 4, and 8 times digital zoom. You're just probably not going to find you're going to use it as much because the need just won't be there for it. Oh, will InfiRay release a scope with optical zoom? Neil, I don't know. Then, and the reason I don't know is because you'd have to solve the problem of point of impact shift. When you go from one optical plane to another optical plane, you're going to have software that counteracts the point of impact shift, because the image is going to be different size to what it's looking at from one plane to another. Is there a spotlight with the color lens that will still function with? I'm not quite sure.
Not quite sure what you mean by this, Brett. Rewrite it.
So we got one from Tom. Does this use the same battery as the RH50?
Yes, it uses the same batteries as the Ricoh devices. Yeah, and I hope this. Okay, cool. We're checking. Are you keeping an eye on Facebook ones too?
Yes.
Oh, you are. Excellent. Excellent.
And from Paul, what device would you put on your roof handle next to my spotlight to scan, and will it take rain, etc.?
Look, Paul, give me a call during the week and we can have a chat about it, because we've got a whole bunch of different devices we use for different reasons. And then, again, that's a conversation we can go into later on. Can you just text Brian and make sure Jack's in bed? Sorry, I got the son that needs to go. Josh, price on the second battery. Look, they come with 2 batteries. Additional batteries, I think, at $249 off the top of my head.
So you have one from Travis. You may have answered this. Can batteries be interchanged with RL42?
Yes, it does. Yeah, they use the same battery. Okay, so I'm going to have a chat about this one here. I watched a video claiming that the 50mm mode, the net D sensitivity gets worse. So these are rated at a 25 millikelvin sensor, and this goes back down to the lens as well, the f-stop of the lens. So when it's in 25mm mode, it is a 0.88 an f0.88 lens. When it's in 50mm, it's an f1.1. So yes, definitely the net D will change, but if you could optically see that, I would be surprised. It's not something I can visually change, but from a technical point of view, it would change slightly, because the f1.1 is going to let less light in than the 0.88 f-stop.
So we have one from Quentin. Is it prone to freezing on refresh, and how long for, please?
Okay, so every thermal device, well, actually, I'm not going to say every thermal device. Most thermal devices, when they're on automatic calibration, or actually every thermal device, if it's on automatic calibration, will pause for about a second while it resets the sensor. It's called non-uniform correction. We'll go into that another time, but it's about a second. You can turn it off. No, actually, sorry. This device is shuttleless. So this device has got a software algorithm, so it actually never refreshes unless you tell it to, okay? And the way you do it is by pressing these 2 buttons here, the top and bottom button, and that will refresh it. But these are shuttleless in terms of their operation, so these actually don't pause for refreshing. Sorry about that. There was a question back here. Okay, Jake, these are IP66 rated as well in terms of their water rating. Caddies ask, what is the size of this unit? The dimensions of this unit are in millimeters, 195 by 65 by 60. All right. We got any more questions about this device?
Yes.
Oh, what do I think about the button layout? I think the button layout on this device is actually one of my favorites, because it's really, really easy to use. These are really tactile buttons in terms of they're quite well raised. They've got nice raised, buttons in terms of an arrow and M and so on. It fits in the hand really nice. You can use this in gloves or without gloves. You can actually put 4 fingers on it and actually play with each button quite well. I think this is actually one of the better layouts and the better buttons that I've seen on a thermal device. I really actually like this button. It's nice, and I like that alignment, you know, in terms of vertically aligned like that too. It's quite nice.
I got a couple on Facebook here, Dad.
Yep.
So from George, a bit left field, but can you buy extra batteries for the Ricoh, extra charger for the Ricoh batteries?
I don't know about the charger. I'd have to ask, but I do know about the batteries. Okay. Rob, this device looks fantastic. Is it more suitable for right eye dominant user than the left? Not now, because that little eyepiece on the back there just rotates around, and now it's set up for a left eye user. I'm left eye dominant when I scan. I'm right eye dominant when I shoot, and you know I've been using this for the last couple of weeks without a problem.
Obviously, you can't change the thing on the boat.
No, you can't change the hand grip on it, which is, we'd love to be if you could, but then you're gonna have problems getting the battery in and out if you could. But I just hold it in that hand anyway up to my eye, or I just hold it like that, you know, to my eye.
So from Tom, is this a metal die cast housing?
Yep. It is, and you feel the weight of it too, and you feel it when you hold it. It's very, very well made. It's a very, very polished device. It's quite nice. It's got both your HD, your USB-C cable, you know, in there as well underneath for charging and video transfer and things like that. It's quite a nice device.
And from Brooke, does it zoom on every digital mag or just the base mag?
No, it zooms on every digital mag. Now, Rod has said the hand strap is awesome. Now, he's been trialing one of these devices for us, you know, as well. So ask him what his thoughts are. I know he's a lot pickier than I am in devices and picks up a lot of stuff that I miss, which is great. Do you have plans to hold info nights in Tasmania? Would love to see it in the flesh. We got plans. When we do it or when we don't do it, I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll flash that bit out. It's a huge operation to move the amount of thermal that we pull out on demo nights to other locations, but it is something we are trying to work on.
So from Travis, is the Rangefinder the same as the Finder series?
Is the Rangefinder?
The Rangefinder the same as the Finder series?
There's no Rangefinder on this device.
Okay. And from Ben, is there some input lag when scanning for animals? Do you find you have to scan slower?
No, not typically. The Wi-Fi on all these devices is pretty good. It's not a noticeable lag, that is for sure. Okay. From Daniel, does this have a power supply to have hardwired for the monitor? Yes, it comes with a cable. It comes with a 3-way cable, and I reckon I'll take the cable out of this box. But basically, it comes with a USB-C cable that allows you to not only charge it but also do video out to a PAL screen. So so you can both charge it and have a video out on it.
We have one from Barry. What type of life would you expect from this unit?
Depends on how you take care of it. You know, it's That's a good question. All right, Bob. Where do you think this toilet technology will end up, Ben? Look, you've got to remember that what we get in the hunting and outdoor market is affordable. Okay. And we're seeing an increased technology and better technology because it's becoming more affordable. This isn't cutting edge. This isn't the best technology on the market in terms of what's available in both medical, military, avionics, you know, all that other type of thing as well. This is affordable. So where will this end up? We'll end up seeing better technology in outdoor markets when it becomes more affordable. And it's kind of like when, you know, the C-Class Mercedes starts with ABS and then it ends up a couple of years or 10 years later in your Hyundai Excel type thing. It's a little bit like that. It filters down. We're just seeing that the new batch of affordable technology.
So from Shine, what is the equivalent in HINC Micro, and is there a video comparing the differences?
I'm not going into other brands brands tonight. This is an InfiRay sponsored event. And, you know, again, you can feel free to call me and we can talk about different products. But tonight it's about these products. Caddy's asked, you know, is there a mounting point? Yeah, there's a mounting point here for this unit as well. We talked about that before, but it's a little bit too far back for my liking in terms of its weight distribution. It's not, you know, on a tripod. I've had it on a tripod with a mount, which has been fine, but it's not something I would put on a remote mount or a single point there. All right. Oh, look at that. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate that very much. Okay, so let's wind up this device because we've still got one more device to get to, and that's the device I've been wanting to get to. Now, before we do that, let's give away our second major device. Courtesy of Spiker, we are going to give away the InfiRay Finder FH35R. Now, this is going to be question and answer based. I put a video up in the Hunt the Night group a couple of weeks back or a week or so ago, which explained why germanium is used in lenses for thermal devices instead of glass. Who can tell me the answer why that is? Anyone? Very quick. Hang on. I got to go back. I can't see all that. Yeah. Right. Hang on. All right. I've got to figure out how I can see all the comments. Who answered first? Can I scroll back on these? Oh, excellent. Hang on. Let me just go back here. Go down. No, to transmit infrared, kind of. Josh, no. Glass, can't see heat. No, there's a specific answer I am looking for.
I don't know what the
answer
is.
I know what the answer is. It's okay. All right,
I am. Answers here as well.
What are you there? Go back. There, Caddy. Katie. No. Jay Miller was first. Have we got anyone before this? Can I? Yep. All right, Jay Miller. It is transparent. Correct. In the thermal world, glass appears to be solid, where germanium is opaque and allows the heat transfer. I mean, you need the coatings and so on to do it, but to work. So, Jay, well done. Thank you very much.
What does he win? He
wins an InfiRay Finder FH35R. So, if you can please email us, Jay Miller, at contact@huntthenight.com.au, we will get that out to you.
Oh, we need some clapping.
I know, we need clapping effects. Okay. All right. So that one can go out. Now, the last device we're going to have a look at tonight. And look, this isn't, I've got a review on this. And all these devices that we've had on tonight will end up with a review over the next couple of days on the YouTube channel, going into them a little bit more and covering what we did. And you can probably re-review this video on YouTube and stuff like that as well if you want to. Now, this device is the last one we're going to have a look at tonight. And this is the InfiRay Tube TH50. Now, I've done a review on this, and it's on our YouTube channel, and it's worthwhile having a look at because I want to talk about a few things about what I really like about this device, and a few things that I like about this device that I didn't cover off in the YouTube channel that since I've been using it, I've been liking even more. Okay, for a start, I don't say this lightly, but currently this is the most unique device on the market. And it hasn't it's not because of what happens up this end. It's because what happens up this end. Now, I make this point in the video. I don't get excited too often about a lot of devices because we're seeing a lot of incremental upgrades in the marketplace. We're not seeing leaps in technology. You know, the new version of, you know, a device is typically, maybe it's a little bit more sensitive. It's got better Wi-Fi. It's got, you know, recording now where it didn't have recording type thing. And, you know, and look, and I'm not saying anything bad, but anything here, but like the CH50 and the CH50W is a little bit like that. It's an incremental upgrade because it adds recording and it adds so on. This device really does change the game. Now, what I just need to do is just grab my specification sheet so I make sure I get all this right. Okay. And where it changes the game is in here, where a typical thermal scope or monocular has a screen size of 0.39 of an inch. This screen is it's a 1 inch screen, 1.3 inch screen. It's got a resolution of 2560 by 2560. Now, what this does is create an immersive, I think is the best way to describe it, an immersive viewing experience. And I'm going to try and grab some footage that I recorded earlier, bear with me, of the actual, I've just got to find it. Sorry, I should have had this one sorted. Of the actual screen, because the screen on this is sensational. When you look through it, it's round for a start, and it's sorry, I'm just looking through some files, just trying to find the right footage. I was going to show you something else, and then I decided I don't want to show you this instead. It's round and it's huge. So it allows you to get your head and your eye relief into a position that I haven't really found on most thermal devices. It is exceptional when it comes to using it and looking through it. It's very, very pleasant on the eye. It's very, very easy to get your head into a nice resting position. And the eye fatigue on this scope has got to be some of the, you know, I'm getting the least amount of eye fatigue on this scope than I have in, you know, a bunch of other types, a bunch of other scopes that I've used. Having that, no, I can't find what I'm looking for. It might be on another server, but we will show this instead. Hang on, bear with me. Sorry. Okay. The detail on this scope, you know, especially up close on animals, is just phenomenal. The detection on it is phenomenal. And what this screen in the back does, and it doesn't come from this end, not entirely, it creates a 3.5 base magnification. So when you have 0.5 base magnification in a 640 device, you know, in a 50mm focal length, you're ahead of the game. So that small target shooting that we typically use 384 devices for, you can start to use 640 devices. Now, 640 devices, and I experienced this the other night, in fog, this device was incredible. I had this out with an RL42. The RL42 was really struggling in the fog. This device was just phenomenal in the fog. It really cut through. Now, there's a few things I really, really like about this device in terms of ergonomics. And for more footage, watch my review on YouTube. There's a cool things. One, this button system here is fantastic. Having the 4 buttons to be able to change color palettes here. You've got your record, and if you hold this one down, it'll also turn on your picture-in-picture and be able to change my screen brightness. I really actually, when this button here came out and it was screen brightness, I was thinking, why did they do that? That's a bit of a waste. It's not, because it comes back down to, again, I change my screen brightness more than I realized for different color palettes and different atmospheric conditions. I really like that. You know, quick press is a photo, hold it down, takes, you know, video. And changing my color palettes there, I actually really, really, really love that. So having the 4 buttons set up here is really good. Your zooming is here. I don't know if you can hear that. It's a beautiful tactile response. It's great for both left and right-handers because it's in the top turret. And this is also a button to activate short press for the short menu and then long press for the long menu. And I cover that off, you know, the menus and all that in the YouTube review. But this is an exceptional device. But the thing I didn't cover in the YouTube video that I love the most, this eye cup. I don't know how many people here lose eye cups, but I lose eye cups all the time. On the InfiRay devices, they screw on and off rather than going over the top and being knocked off. It's fantastic. It's great. It's got a great diopter range of -5 to 5.3. So basically, this comes out a long way and allows for a wide variety of people's eyesight. You know, this is a device, I'm going to say, that is like no other on the market. Every single one that has come into our stock has gone out, and we're still waiting on more. It's got 2 internal batteries and they're both 18500 internal batteries, and you get about 10 hours operating time out of the battery. You can also take this off here, and you can stick another battery in here, which is an 18500 battery. So it's a little bit smaller than an 18650, and that'll go in there, and that'll extend it by about another 3 hours. Okay, so it's not huge, but for 3 or 4 hours you'll get out of it. It does suck to put the cap back on. I'm going to say it's the one thing I don't like. And I'm going to take it out just because I'm, you know, going to cause myself issues. On this side here, it's USB-C for charging, or if you want to hook up a computer to download your videos. It also has Wi-Fi built into it, and it has, you know, the ability to both record and stream. It doesn't have audio recording, which I really wish that it did. And that's the one thing I think that's really holding this device back. But apart from that, this device is something special. Like, it is unique. And I like unique. I like devices that come onto the market that are trying something different and that are pushing the boundaries of what is already out there. It is, yeah, something to be seen. So if you are looking for a... Now, there's a couple of things too that I like about tube scopes, which I haven't really touched on. And why I guess I've been moving even my own rifles more and more to tube scopes is they sit nice and low. You know, you can get your barrel to bore height pretty much the same as you can your day optics, so your trajectory is a little bit more predictable. The need for cheek rises is mostly eliminated, you know, as well, where I find that, you know, devices that sit up, even the Ricohs do it, they sit up. My trajectory is a little bit different on some of my, you know, rifles that aren't as flat, and that need for cheek rises are definitely there. So it's one of those things that I really feel that, you know, tube scopes are definitely, and now we're seeing more variety of them in different focal lengths and sensors and all that, and affordability. There's been a huge influx in tube scopes, and our ability to, you know, to keep them in stock's been quite difficult. So this is something I really like about tube scopes as well, and the eye relief is generally a little bit better too. So this device, this TH50, is sensational. Now, I've saved it to last, and again, we've got a good review of it on our YouTube channel, Hunt the Night, by youtube.com/Hunt the Night. I'd encourage you to watch it. But this is a $64.95 retail price. It does come with a set of rings. They're not real great. They're your standard type of rings, and they're too high. But it comes with the Picatinny rings. They're not the ones I typically use. So I've got either my Bobro Crick Release, or I use some worn ones, or I use some Vortex ones. You know, quite good. So let's get to some of the questions about this device.
Does the scope need to be focused more so than the Ricoh RL42?
I can't say I have really noticed that, Ben. It's still an f.1 1.1 lens on this device. I can't say I've noticed that. Rodney, I don't know if you've seen that question, but if you have, maybe, I know you've been playing around with one for a couple of weeks now, what you found that in terms of focus wise, but I wouldn't say I've noticed it overly, Ben. But and Ben, maybe it's because, you know, the way I use my devices too, it's generally the last thing I go to, so I'm not moving my focus around too much. But I can't say I've noticed it. Tim has said they'd be useful for foxes in open country. This is an excellent fox shooting scope. I haven't shot too much in the way of deer with this yet because I think that 3.5 magnifications for me in terms of how I shoot deer, which is generally sub kind of 50 to 75 meters. I think the 3.5 mag is going to be a little bit too high because it's still only got an 8.8 by 7 field of view. What about here? Do you have to put your eye right up against the rubber eye capped? I don't want to become a pirate. No, look, Riley, I've actually found with this one, I can move it actually further back because the screen is so big. It's a lot of tube scopes. And I had this conversation with Nathan Stewart a couple of weeks ago about when you design something to look like something, you compromise function. I find the eye relief on most of the the brick style scopes to be a little bit better because they're kind of designed in this back end differently. But this is the first tube scope that I've really found from an eye relief point of view. I'm in a very, very comfortable position. I found in other brands as well, and even in the TL35 in this range isn't as comfortable as this one. But because it's got that big ultra high definition screen in the back, it's that I can sit my eye further back. Let's see, just up down here for a sec. Oh, what is the mag? So this is 3.5 in base magnification. A digital zooms goes to 3.5 to 7. So yeah, no, 3.5, 7 goes up to 15 magnification. Here's off the top of my head, 16 times magnification. Hang on a second. Yeah. So Rodney has said here, the round screen is very appealing to the eye and looks huge. Anti-ejectrix top zero turret will lend itself really well to the long-range fox shooter. So, yeah, we've sent one to Rodney a couple of weeks ago. He's been playing with it. I know he's been enjoying it on foxes, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if his comments about shooting deer, as well, would be the same. We're back to Frisky Dragon. What type of range will this go out to? Look, again, that comes down to the shooter and what you're trying to shoot. Like, I can see foxes with this scope, at 400 or 500 meters without problem, but I just can't take a shot at that kind of distance. I'm not good enough. It really comes down to what your effective range is as a capable shooter. But all these thermal scopes see so far, especially at night time. But at the end of the day, with something that's small, the further away it is, the smaller the target it is. Even with something big, the further away it is, the smaller the target is. So it really comes down to what caliber and your capability is anyway.
I've got some questions here.
Hang on. Does the thread strip easily on the eye cup? No, it's not a too fine a thread. It's quite a good thread, and there's no real pressure on it. We won't. I can't see that. I can't see that being an issue. Okay, what is the adjustment per click? It's 1.2 centimeters at 100 meters. So that's getting what you're down to one quarter MOA at 100. I think that's my maths is correct. It's very fine adjustment. So the more pixels we have in the back of these devices, and the higher resolution of the screen, the better our refinement is in terms of our ability to zero these. Because at the end of the day, we're moving a digital crosshair over pixels, and it has to sit on top of a pixel. It can't move to a half pixel. So the more pixels, the more accurate these devices become, and that's what we're aiming to get. So being such a high resolution screen allows us to zero this device more precise than there is anything else out there on the market, purely because of that as well. Like Bruce, 200 to 300 meters on for playing to shooting foxes, I can't see that being a stretch for this device. Shame about the audio recording, but still a cool device. Correct, Cam. Yeah, I'll get to you, Georgia. Dark Pyro, do InfiRay make their own chips and sensor? Yes, they do. They manufacture this whole unit is manufactured by InfiRay. They make all their own chips. Walkabout Productions, how many profiles? It's the same. So it's the 3 profiles with 3 different rows per profile. Who wouldn't want one? My wife. She doesn't shoot, but apart from that, I can't imagine anyone else who wouldn't want one. How much eye relief? Well, that'll be a little bit dependent on this. The eye relief is rated at 50 millimeters, which is a little more than your typical thermal devices. which are typically 40 to 45 type mil. Okay, what to go like with a 20 MOA one-piece mount when it comes to setting it up? So it's a 30 mil tube size. I mean, if you're going to use a 20 MOA rail, you know, you're going to have to zero it further just because of the so a little bit about MOA. If you're shooting short with these types of devices, the MOA will increase obviously your travel in terms of your vertical axis, but being a digital reticle, you're moving the digital reticle to a point on the screen. It's not like a day optic where your reticle doesn't change. So if you're going to use a 20 MOA rail, you probably want to have a good reason to do it when you zero it, and you want to zero it a lot further out, because if you try and zero it 100 meters, you're going to find the elevation point of your reticle is in a really strange position. Katie, in terms of how much lower do they sit, depends on the rings, but you can, you know, being a 50 mil focal length out of housing, you know, I run these in medium rings. They sit on my Tikka 308, you know, quite near the barrel. It's quite nice.
We've got a prize for Katie. She's asked a few questions.
Haven't we not given Katie something?
No.
I thought we did. Okay, Katie, you get an InfiRay hat and a Hunt the Night t-shirt. So you've asked a lot of questions, and they've been quite good, actually. So if you could please email your details to contact@hunttonight.com.au, we will definitely get that out to you. What else we got in here? I know. Oh, sorry. My daughter Georgia has got FOMO because I haven't been asking about her questions. All right, what questions have you got, Georgia?
So from Tom, is the CH50 shuttleless?
Yes, this device is a shuttleless device as well. So you can press the button to refresh it, but this is also a shuttleless device, I think. I'm very sure. Yes, it is.
Give me a second.
That's okay. Leah, no, they don't. I'm sorry. They don't. But that's a good one. I'll push that back to them to start selling dust covers.
So from Barry, can it be changed from mower to mils?
In the reticle option? Good question. I don't know. I haven't looked that far into it in terms of the reticles that are in there. I do know for the Ricohs and the Ricoh series, we both have the Mil and the MOA information for those reticles. I don't know if it's been provided to us for the reticles that are in here. Good question. How heavy are they compared to the RL42? Look, these are a 940 gram unit because they've got the two internal batteries, you know, to go with it. But if I grab my specification sheet, the RL42 is 820 grams without the battery in it. So by the time you add that battery, there's probably not too much difference in weight between the two. It's, yeah, but I wouldn't think it's really that significant.
I got one from Marcia. Can you Wi-Fi the live image to another device?
Yes, you can. Yep, these have both got the inbuilt Wi-Fi in them, like all the other InfiRay units as well. How tough are these units? That's a really good question. Will they stand up to the bumps as well? I would say these are. I mean, these have probably got a tougher tube on them than most optical scopes, especially lightweight optical scopes. I wouldn't say we've ever had returns based on knocking around a scope. You know, you don't want to break the lens out of the unit and so on. But apart from that, you know, you've got a lens here, you've got some batteries and cables, and you've got a screen there. It's a little bit different to when you've got an optical lens system up. I would say these hold up quite well. You know, most thermal devices hold up quite well.
You've dropped it on the grass.
Yeah, I've dropped it on the grass. There was another question in here. How well does it cut through heavy fog and moisture? I had it out last night. Friday night it was, and it was heavy fog, very heavy fog. It cut through it very well. You know, and I'm talking effective ranges of about 150 meters I could no longer see the 600 meter, away, but in that 150 meter range, I could still see, quite well. I couldn't see anything like trees and things like that, but the horses I could clearly see, and they, were big heat objects, obviously, but it was still working quite well. But every thermal device and every infrared device, because at the end of the day, it is an infrared device, is going to be limited by its environment to a degree. And as that fog gets heavier, as moisture gets heavier, as well, because like when light hits something, it can become a particle or a wave, and also dispersed in different directions. So it's like, when you walk down the street and you look into a window on a bright sunny day and see a reflection, that's light becoming a particle rather than a wave. So it's actually hitting that and becoming a particle. So anytime that anytime the environment interferes with light, even in the thermal device, there's going to be less available information for it at the receiving end on that thermal sensor. There was a couple of questions here about the internal batteries. That they can be replaced under warranty if they were to die, but it's not something they can replace. Startup time on these devices is still around that kind of 18 seconds to start up. Standby time is it's about 2 seconds into standby, and it's instant coming out of standby. Okay, so how does the battery system? Yes, it uses the external battery, then it will use the internal battery if there's an external battery in it. Should I be removing the scope at the end of the trip? Look, that's a personal preference and how well you store stuff in your gun safe and neatly. All my stuff's generally on quick scopes all the time, so I don't typically store them. But that's really a personal preference.
What's the warranty on this product?
3 years. Okay, how to clean your lens if it gets dirty. If you've got access to a brush like this is your starting point to cleaning a lens, okay? You can use small amounts of compressed air to blow it off, and then you use a lens cleaner. A lens cloth. Don't introduce things like solutions and so on, because they can interfere with the coatings that are on the lens. And germanium really needs that coating to be an effective heat transfer or light transfer, because germanium by itself isn't a great one. So if you're going to use it, start with a brush or a little bit of air to blow it off. Treat it like I guess you would a camera lens without introducing any type of solution.
Does it have auto shut off?
You can set the unit to auto shut off. What's the delay on the Wi-Fi image? No difference to anything else I've shown tonight. It's pretty much instant.
What's the PIP?
Picture in picture. So picture in picture is it'll show a zoomed in image, square at the top of the viewfinder that you're looking through. So you'll see the whole image, and you'll see a square with an actual another image in it that's always one magnification greater. That's a good question, Cam. I do not know the answer to it. It would come down to the documentation, what's in the user manual as well, I would say. I cannot give you an answer on that one if someone does. Neil, yes, picture in picture, it does. It will automatically refresh out of standby, but also being a shuttleless device, you have to manually refresh it if you want to refresh it. Now, and a little bit on that, you will get a little bit of image degradation over time because it's an algorithm. And the way non-uniform correction works, it's kind of like, it's the best way to explain it is when thermal sensors are looking at different environmental things, so like trees, a shrub, a horse, or whatever, it leaves like a ghosting effect, and it remembers that, and then the image starts to degrade, and then when you do a correction, it drops a lens so that it sees a flat image, it sees a flat color for that second, and that resets the image. So that's, you know, so when you're doing it with software, you will get a little bit of image degradation naturally because it's not doing a hardware reset, but you can quickly redo it, and you know, it pauses for that second. What was that? Yeah, I agree, Raid. I'd like to see these boot up, you know, a lot quicker, and that would come down to the underlying, you know, software platform that they use to do it. And you know, we're always pushing for faster and betterer, but if it's doing diagnostics, if it's doing something else, you know, I don't know what the delay is, but yeah, you know, we would love to see that time improved as well. It doesn't necessarily take away from the quality of the device once it's running though.
So from Sam, how does this cope with passing traffic?
I passing traffic.
Yeah.
I don't, as in if you want to mount it to watch cars and so on, I don't understand the context of the question. Yeah. Let me recommend. All right. So that image degradation, Josh, is really dependent on the environment, you know, as well. It's not real noticeable. Just sometimes I notice it, and I notice it more when I zoom in and the image is cropped, and then I'm like, oh, that image doesn't look as good. And then I hit that refresh button and go, oh, yeah, that image looks really good. But I leave most of my scopes when I'm out shooting anyway on manual refresh. So for me, image degradation happens over a period of probably 90 seconds or so. I want to start refreshing it. But some environment conditions, you know, like worse environment conditions, are going to make me want to refresh more than less.
Is there a good monocular to pair with this?
Yeah, the InfiRay FH35R is a great monocular to pair for it. We've sold a heap of packages recently, actually, with the FH35R and the CH50. Yes, Leah, this is the 3 rifle scopes, so A, B, and C, with the 3 different ranges per scope.
Is there updates you can download for the software?
Yes, so there are InfiRay. There hasn't been a release like an upgrade for this unit yet. The only release for this unit was where the initial batch of these shipped out as calculated at 4x magnification base mag, but when they recalibrated the units and did the final testing, it was 3.5. So something, but that's just on the screen, instead of saying 4x, it says 3.5. That's the only real difference. But for instance, like if you have a look at, you know, InfiRay's history of doing software updates, the Zoom series is the previous one, the ZH38, the first model that came out, it's had, I think, 3 software updates now. The TD50L, the night vision scopes, had, I think, 3 software updates within 6 months or so, which have introduced color at night to the device. The InfiRay Finder, the FH35 and the FL35R, have just had a software update to start allowing to see the rangefinder information being broadcast onto the iPad. So they're really good at actually updating and pushing these updates out. They're actually one of the better companies that I've worked with that actually listen to what you're asking them to do and actually start developing it. They're quite good.
How long is the waiting list for these units, Ben?
Hopefully next week we'll have them back in stock. I just don't know how many we're getting yet, but we've put in a significant order and hopefully we get them all.
And like, how many do we have a back order though? Like, how will people, do you know?
I don't know how many we're getting, so I don't know what we're going to clear out in terms of. I expect we're going to have stock available next week. Yeah. You know, Josh, it's a hardware change for when it comes to audio. You know, so Josh's question is, do you know if InfiRay plan to have audio recording? I know they plan to have audio recording. I just don't know when. It won't be in this current hardware version because there's no microphone port in it. So, you know, they've got a few things to sort out with with audio. The introduction to audio in the Ricoh devices was unusable. They've seemed to get it right in the Zoom devices. I think the Jenny, it's quite good as well from memory. I was playing around that the other night, the GL35. Hopefully we'll start to see a bit more audio recording in the future as well, and being a bit better.
We had a clarification on the traffic, how it copes with passing traffic.
Yep.
Do the lights from traffic interfere with the scope?
No. It operates on a different wavelength, and that doesn't interfere with. It's the same as if you turn a spotlight on; it won't interfere with it. Yeah, cool. Can the rifle be left into a charger all the time so it's fully charged when grab the rifle? Yes, yeah, you can. I do that. I normally just do it via power banks, but yes, you can do it. Okay, is there an inbuilt rangefinder? Travis, yes, there is. How effective that rangefinder is, and you activate it by holding down the screen brightness button. I've never really found them software ones to be that accurate.
Does this scope use parallax adjustments?
No, it's a digital scope. So digital scopes don't have parallax issues and adjustments like optical scopes do.
Are we planning on doing more live streams? Glad everyone's enjoying it.
If you're enjoying it, this has gone pretty well, actually. Yes, we are going to do some more live streams. And we'll probably do a lot more live streams, more based around one kind of product and keep it not so late, or a topic as well. We've got a podcast that we're in development and things like that as well. Okay, how come they don't put the focus on the side knob so you don't have to reach the front objective? Because that's where the focus on these units and the movement of the housing is here. You can't put it back here because that would have to be digital. This is a mechanical focus, which is basically, in reality, a parallax adjustment, but anyway, is what it is. You can't put it here. But if you put it on the side knob too, you lose the ability to have a battery, and then you've got your charger here. So it's got to be there because it's mechanical as well. Now, Golfing Nomad, it can't be a optical scope like a glass scope, like a day scope, but you can use these during the day. Thermal devices are just based off heat. Don't point them at the sun. That's not really good for them. But yes, you can use this during the day. It's still going to be the same image. It's going to look the same when you look through it. Things will probably look detailed, might be a little bit different because of the heat of the day or the coldness of the day, depending what it is. But yes, you can use these devices during the day. Is the compass accurate, mate? I can never find north to begin with, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm the wrong person to ask. Don't ask my wife either, because when we drive, I have to follow where she points, not where she says to go. So if she says go left, I always got to say, if I can't see, is that my left or your left? So I'm not sure.
Can you change the temperature parameters?
I
don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by changing temperature parameters. If you mean operating temperatures, I think these are rated. Operating temperature is -20 to positive +50. So at the moment we're okay. Depends what happens in the next couple of decades, I guess. But yeah, operating temperatures is between -20 and +50. I don't know if they've got an auto shutdown in that. I haven't pushed into those types of operating limits as well. I'm very impressed with the technical responses. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. One thing we really try and do at Hunt the Night here is really understand the technical and try and break it down in a way that we can explain it, because this stuff is quite technical, and we field test all of it. We've actually, we brought Rodney Morris now on as a consultant to our business to help us field test because I'm running out of time. We like to know these devices inside and out. Like contrast. Gotcha. 10 parameters like contrast. No, these outside of screen brightness and sharpness, there's not a great deal. It's like it runs the matrix algorithm, so it does. But I will say it does it a lot better than the Ricoh RH50, which wasn't my favorite, especially on black hot. And I'm talking to InfiRay a little bit about that in terms of the way that contrast balances out. I don't miss the ability with this scope to really be able to change that brightness and contrast too much. Yes, it does. You can have it either green, red, white, or black. The reticles. Reticles can be multiple colors. My video on sensor size is one of your best. Thanks, James. I appreciate that. Sometimes I like to put up comments that pat myself on the back. What else there, Karen?
Oh, David just clarified what he meant by changing temperature parameters. If the surrounding environment is similar temperature to your target.
Okay, so if it's similar, like it's difficult to get a whole environment similar to your target. Okay, so if your target's going to present at 38 degrees, for instance, and it's a 45 degrees day, the air doesn't hold 45 degrees in temperature. You know, rocks are going to get hot. You know, so it's going to be hard to see it between them, but it doesn't know the difference between living and non-living. So it can't go, oh, look, that's something living, so let's increase the contrast of that as opposed to something not living. What they do have is they have what's called a highlight mode, which works really well in cooler temperatures, where when it does detect a big body of heat, everything else goes black and all you can see is this white heat block, well, you know, a horse and so on. And I cover that in a couple of the other reviews. I think the RL42 review has got that, or the InfiRay Finder, the FH35R might have it. It's really cool, but I wouldn't actually say it's necessarily safe, because when all you can see is your target and you can't see any background, you know, you kind of lose a little bit of, you know, safety in terms of your shooting alleys and where you're going to shoot and so on. But it's a pretty cool function, but it wouldn't know the difference between a rock and a wombat, for instance. So it wouldn't be able to change it, you know, if they're both a similar temperature. Are you giving one of these away? Yes, we are. Price is $64.95, and they're available for back order at our website. Now,
someone asked another question. Can you define a stag to a hind at 200 to 300 meters?
I would think with this one it wouldn't be too much of an issue, based on maybe not antler, but certainly body shape. Being the 3.5 magnification, it's going to do that a little bit easier than the 2 magnification scopes. Certainly if they're in velvet. Actually, no, I reckon you probably could see them, because I have seen and been able to identify fallow bucks with less, just pre-rut with less sensitive scopes at, you know, over 200 meters. And in my RL42 review, there's video of that. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, when it comes to elevation, and, well, these scopes are a little more flexible because you can change the ring height a little bit better. But when it comes to elevation running out of it, you're talking about having then to change, you know, to 20 MOA rails. I would say these are a little bit better because of the high resolution screen to begin with, but then also because of the ring system setup is a little bit different because they sit lower, where the RL42s tend to sit up a little bit higher. Yes, Anya Michael, the reticle is one of my, the viewing experience for this device is my favorite so far in a thermal device because of that screen. You know, the reticle's nice. It's not intrusive. I mean, I often use the small cross in it anyway. you know, it's not too intrusive. It's quite nice.
How many rifle settings can be saved?
3 plus then 3 distances per rifle. Good question, Travis. The reticles are not tied to the 0, so it is the same reticle, and then you change the reticle independent of the 0. Okay, so Maddie, been running Pulsar for 5 years, looking to upgrade. Will I be happy with the image, as you have just stated? Look, I don't get into comparing devices, but what I can say, and I've used a lot of Pulsar as well, and we sell a lot of Pulsar as well. I'm not anti anything. I will say that I tend to go towards this scope, and I don't miss the brightness and contrast. Being able to play around with it, this scope does it pretty well. Certainly in the RH50 was never one of my favorite scopes because I didn't have that brightness and contrast available to me. It wasn't bad, but it just, as more scopes came onto the market in quick succession after they launched that scope, there were better alternatives. Like the Siam CH50, which I think is probably one of the most underrepresented scopes on the market, is a great little device with the brightness and contrast settings, but I can't say I'm leaning towards that device over this device. This device to me is one of my primary devices now. Well, actually, I had to sell my one because I didn't have enough of them and someone really wanted it. But when I get mine back, it is one of my primary devices. I haven't felt the need to have to. I do, to muck around with it too much.
Based on the fact it can be difficult to judge the range. Oh, shoot, I just lost my phone. Oh, judge the range at night. Would you zero your scope for 150, 200 meters?
Yeah, I tend to, depending what projectile I'm using, will determine really kind of what. But I've always got a rangefinder with me, whether it's my Accolade binoculars or my FH35R. So, for me, and if I'm on a new property and I'm behind a rifle and I haven't ranged stuff out yet, I count fence posts because they're generally 3 meter spans, so I get an idea of what it is. But when you're learning this, and I've been shooting thermal for years now, but when you start learning thermal, there is a learning curve in terms of judging distance. And to me, some scopes with f1.2 lenses do it better than scopes with f1 lenses, because you get a bit more depth perception out of it, but that's a different conversation. Yeah.
Does the front lens cover remove rather than having to open it?
I don't know. I've never tried pulling it off. I'm going to say it probably would be because it should be a replaceable part. Oh, there it is. Now, this is Spiker's demo. Sorry, Leo, you're watching this. But yes, you can remove the front lens cover, which would make it upgradable as well. I better put that back on before I get in trouble. But yes, it does remove. There we go. Back on. See? All fixed. All right. Ben's asked, can repairs be? Yes, they can, Ben. Depends on the availability of parts, whether they got to be imported or whether they're here or not. But yes, repairs can be done to screens. It's something that happens, yeah. Okay, we're not going to go into binoculars tonight, Raid, but what I would suggest is when we launch our new range of webinars for and we might even do this just as a live stream, we'll set up a conversation between the pros and cons of using binoculars and monoculars. I will say, I have found that when I went to binoculars, I could never go back. But Ben Hatch, on here, went to binoculars and he went back to a monocular. So, maybe it's a conversation I'll talk to Ben about and see if it's something he can join me in on a live stream with. And I know Rob Morris would be great on that too, because he uses a fair range of both binoculars and monoculars, and we could definitely have a good chat about it.
I know that we talked about this very early on in the webinar. How reliable is warranty support, repair, or replace? Can you just go through that again?
So warranty with us is guaranteed. Okay, and we've got customers out there that have experienced how we do warranty, and it's like this. And this is us. This is not every retailer. This is how we do it. If you have a problem with your thermal device that we've sold you and it's under warranty, I will get it back from you, and the day I get it back, I will ship you a loan device. And the loan device is either usually the same or better. It's never kind of worse. I will go and go get your device repaired or replaced. I will send it back to you with a return label, and then I will get my device back from you. That's how we do warranty. I don't like people being out of thermal or out of, you know, their product when they spend a significant amount of money on it, because warranty, depending on where it is, like if it's something that's got to be shipped offshore, for instance, we've got to get an export permit from the Defense Department. It's got to be returned to the country of origin for repair. It can be a 3-month process. I don't like people have to wait. So we give you a loan device in the instance that there's a warranty issue.
I think that's
all
pretty
right.
much most of. I think it's pretty much most of the questions.
So let's wrap it up and let's give away a TH50. And we won't take this one too lightly. Let's figure out how we're going to do this. All right. So, Karen, you're keeping an eye on that on the Facebook stream.
I am.
And I'm keeping an eye on the YouTube screen. All right. So, it's going to be question related. And the question is going to be, what is the screen resolution of the TH50?
I've got times. I've got times.
That's it there, isn't it?
I think so. Let me just double check this time.
We're just checking some times.
I can't. Yep, that one.
Jacob Smith, fastest finger first. Mate, if you could, congratulations on winning the TH50 thermal scope. If you could please email us your details, and when they come back into stock, hopefully in a week, whoa, we will send it out to you. That is courtesy of Hunt the Night. Thanks, Hunt the Night. We really appreciate that. So, guys, thank you everyone for joining us on our live stream. Thank you again to InfiRay and who asked us to do this. So when I talk about InfiRay, I'm talking about head office in overseas. They approached us for this. The bit confusing how InfiRay is done out here because InfiRay is not really InfiRay, but anyway. Thank you very much to Ground Force and to Spiker for helping us put this event on and supplying us some product. But again, this doesn't happen without our valuable, customers and people who are happy to spend some time with us on a Sunday night. So we really appreciate it. Any questions? Anything else that comes out of this that I haven't answered? Please feel free to give me a call during the week or shoot me a message or an email. You can get us at huntthenight.com.au. We do have the new Clip-Ons in stock. I've only got one left. The ZH50s, I'm not entirely sure when they'll come in. The RH35s are in stock, and the TH50s will be back in stock hopefully next week. So, yeah. All right. Excellent. Guys, thank you very much. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, and, yeah, we'll catch you all again soon. Bye for now.